All right, everyone, welcome back. Looks like all the streams have been restarted. We now know 8 hours is the magic number on Facebook. So looks like every other channel is reopened. So this time I'd like to go to our Wounded Warrior Detachment panel with our host, Dan Brown, our squad leader. So Dan, take it away.
Hi, thank you for thanks for the intro, Tim. This is the Walking Wounded panel. We're calling it Everyone Fights, No One Quits, because I think that's pretty representative of the spirit that you see represented in this group that I've had the pleasure to get to know. Before we get started, I just want to mention we are here representing Make-A-Wish. I think the work that they do is so important, and especially to a group like ours that you're going to hear from over the next few minutes. It's really important. You know, anything that can be an encouragement to someone who's going through something tough is worth doing. And it's odd because even if it seems small to you, it's not to them. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel. With us today, we have T, as I've been instructed to call her, which is good. I can remember a single letter, although names are not my forte. We also have Alan, who plays Count Dooku for Inferno Squad, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then I am very pleased that we have Mr. Albin Johnson joining us again. Albin, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here. The last time was so good. I appreciate you inviting me.
Well, you know, the work that you've done for both the Legion, but specifically for this group is something that I think we can all kind of take a lesson from. I remember during the last panel that we had with you, the last discussion, you kind of said that when you started things like this, there wasn't a big plan behind it. But obviously now, you know, it looks like what's happened is maybe bigger than what you had intended. Is that accurate at all?
Yeah, I would say so. What began as just a conversation at a bar with the late Tony Price at Dragon Con years ago. Uh, I took a sort of just an idle talk until when he passed. Um, those words from him really stuck with me for a number of years, and I'd been so busy developing the 501st and R2KT and Galactic Academy and other projects. But it occurred to me that that feels like a very underserved portion of our community that is very much a part of our community. You see every day, uh, members who are in costume that, and it speaks to the relentless nature and spirit of Star Wars fans and their love for Star Wars, that they'll show up in wheelchairs or in walkers or with leg braces or whatever, and these people are just won't be denied. We had a motorized member in the Star Wars weekends parade at Disney, and the Disney personnel were like, "Yep, make it happen." So I felt like this needed to happen, but I've been more than overwhelmed by just how united everybody's been. They've really come together, and they've really shown their pride in this, and I think it's been good for everybody.
So when you started this, obviously this started as a conversation, and now here in 2020, you're sitting here wearing a shirt that says "Walking Wounded" on it. Uh, what happened to get to that point? This is an informal group by 501st standards. How did you get here?
Okay, so early on in the Legion, I was brainstorming a lot of different ideas about how this organization was going to be structured, and it changed as we saw needs for things. And one of the biggest out of nowhere changes we needed to make was for detachments, because not every person that follows a theme like a squadron of TIE pilots, they're never going to be geographically located together. If they were, that'd be weird. But you want to find some way of celebrating the identity of, say, a particular costume type. And one of the first projects I had, which was I won't say a failure, but I had to recant. It was before Ladies of the Legion. It was Dallas Death Squad. And I realized very quickly that that couldn't be official because it's not costume based. And then you might have other groups coming in and want to set up something that wasn't appropriate. And it'd be hard to say yes or no. So what I did was I just essentially said Tony's vision and our vision together would probably be best served as an unofficial detachment. Dave Liu out of Malaysia designed the first ever logo. And the moment I put it out there, it was an immediate hit. So the idea was, and sadly, only a couple of years ago did I, get the domain and everything going. But it was just a groundswell of support. People who are trooping with any number of disabilities, whether mental, emotional, physical, real or unreal. We don't care about these labels. If you feel like you're dealing with some adversity in trooping, we want you in. And the members did it. I mean, all the Walking Wounded members are the ones who are successful, making this successful, not me.
I want to loop back to a couple things here in a minute, but so T and Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, but both of you are relatively new to the Walking Wounded, correct?
Yep, this is my first time being part of the group. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm also very new, but I'm very proud of this.
Now, here's the question that I have for you two. So you actually, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you actually joined following the last InfernoCon, where we kind of talked about this. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
And I wish there was more advertisement because I didn't even notice it, and my husband did, and was like, "Hey, they've got this." But yeah, since that one, now I've joined here. Mm-hmm.
Well, I joined before the last InfernoCon, but I was asking about this, and I was actually thinking about starting it up, but I found it was already there, thanks to Albion. He probably has many headaches for me asking different questions, but that's how I ended up joining. I was very happy about this, and where I work, this will help a lot of people out, and it also helps me too. So.
Well, let me kind of segue here
Yeah.
into a question for all of you. And I think, Alan, let's start with you since you were just talking. What does the Walking Wounded represent for you as a member of the 501st? Like, what significance does it have?
Well, really, I think that it actually puts the word out about that the actual 501st is not just for someone that's in perfect health, that anybody can actually join and still be good with it. Also, what it does is it brings my brothers and sisters from I'm previous military, and anyone can actually join, but it actually really just brings the heart. I think the heart of the 501st by saying we have something like this. That's about it.
See, what about you? What does having a group like this as part of the 501st mean to you personally?
It means unity. It means that there's nothing to stop you from doing what you want to be able to do, and you can still be part of these things. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. For me, that it's ability and a disability with full support of others, because the group is so supportive of each other and helping each other. So you get that support, which makes things for you to be able to do. So you're putting able out there a lot more than disability. You're putting the ability to be able to be a part of it.
Now, Alvin, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question, kind of based off this. You know, as the guy who sort of, steered this whole thing, when you had that conversation in the bar with your friend, is this what you had in mind, or was it just more of a hey, it would be cool type thing? Like, is this what you wanted to see?
Yeah, I would say people ask the same thing about the Legion, the Galactic Academy, and so forth. And I'd like to say all of us have ideas. I mean, you could hear Alan was thinking exactly the same thing, and we never want to go in with a defeatist attitude and say, well, let's put a box around it. We're going to expect this. Of course, we'll set goals and hope to exceed those goals. But my hope was to see the same level of appreciation people have for feeling inclusion in a club that celebrates Star Wars. That same level saying, here we are together celebrating Star Wars in spite of, or in the face of these other things. So it's almost like this heart within a heart. I meet so many members of the Legion from around the world, and they're just tearfully grateful to have this home. And then within that, I feel like it's even more precious for the people that are members of the Walking Wounded, because there's a lot of invisible obstacles they have to overcome just to get there. So it's absolutely what I guess my dream, my wish list would have been for how people see it. And by making it unofficial and letting it be sort of a crowdsourced sort of thing, yeah, it's pretty much going the way I wanted it to go, and I'm grateful for that.
One of the things that's interesting to me is that if you're dealing with something in your life that's a challenge, it can be pretty easy to kind of focus on yourself. And I have that problem a lot. When something kicks up in my life, my tendency is to sort of ignore everybody else. Oh, this is so bad for me. But the 501st and some of the other clubs that we work with have sort of the unique distinction of it doesn't let you do that. If you go on a troop, you're focusing on other people. Like the whole, and a lot of what we do around the holidays, especially, is focused on helping others. Again, like this event where we're trying to help make a wish. Some of this stuff. That's for those of you listening and paying attention. Donate. That's a subtle plug. I worked that in. This is very smooth of me. But because this group kind of forces you to think outside of yourself, it's sort of a unique position for those of us here. So, T, my question for you is, how is being a member of the Walking Wounded helped you relate to other people? When you run into someone who is not part of one of these groups, have you been able to relate in a different way to them because of this?
I think so, because when you get to somebody else and you get talking to somebody and everybody's looking for that inclusion. And I love what Alvin said about the heart within the heart. I love that. So I think once you get talking to people that there's a way, that's a great thing, because a lot of people don't know, and they don't know if they can do something, if they can be part of it, if they can do a costume, or, well, I've got this limitation, so I may not be able to do this. And when you get talking to people, and for me, it helps me because I'm bringing, hey, we can still help you do this. So I think I talk with people about it all the time. Mm-hmm.
Alan, what about you? Have you found that having a particular challenge and being part of a group like this has given you maybe an added insight into others that you run into?
Yes, it has. Being in this type of group like this, I mean, first thing is I'm able to open up to other people that I normally wouldn't think that would be able to do something like this. It kind of opened my mind up itself. By doing so, I'm able to talk to other people at my office area where I work. I mean, there's a lot of, wounded veterans. I get to talk to them and tell them about our what we do and how they can actually be part of it. And a lot of them, their eyes just gleam and they say, really, we can do this? I can be part of this, because I mentioned some of the places that we've done things and they say, oh, I can do that. I said, yeah, you can do that. You don't have to be. And, we just want you. You can do it. And it opens their eyes up. And by seeing that, it kind of makes me internally feel good and smile.
Yep.
So, I mean,
no, it's interesting that you mentioned that, the idea that you're telling someone, hey, you can do this. Alvin, have you noticed that, when you're talking to people, especially potential members, have you noticed that some of these people just don't maybe haven't realized that groups like this are an option for them? Like I don't mean the walking wounded specifically. I mean, like being part of the 501st. If you run into people who say, well, I have this going on, I can't do that, they won't let me in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the last couple of years, Star Wars has seen a real renaissance. And when I walk around, I think a lot of people who with disabilities feel you're a walking testimony, and people see the Star Wars signage that I have and then the leg, and we get to talking, and it's usually a joke about Luke's robot hand, or, Star Wars actually is pretty pro handicap, handicapable out there. There's a lot of banged up, wounded people. And so we get to talking about that, and it's almost the same conversation I have, hey, with regular Star Wars fans. I've always said there's like an invisible line that people have in their fandom, and then they put all their energy into watching it or collecting it or building models or whatever. And it never occurs to them to be in the skin of it and being, a costume member, but especially so with handicapped people. And it's one of the easiest sells I can make. Most times when you're telling someone with a disability that they can, I don't know, go bungee jumping or something like that, they think to themselves, well, maybe not me. But it's very easy for Star Wars fans, once they hear about it, to jump on board. And why is that? Because Star Wars teaches us to use our imagination. Like T said, that it's all about inclusion. And so it's beautiful for me to find. I love what T said, that she hadn't heard about it. That challenges me to get the word out there even more. But it's such an easy sell for a lot of fans, because there's something liberating about putting on the mask or whatever and portraying another character, and being able to do that fearlessly.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. Going with that, I think when you're talking to somebody else to try to include them, a lot of people who are disabled don't want to ask that they might need a change, or can they do it, all that. So you have that little bit of a barrier that a lot of people who are able-bodied don't think of. And for us being in the group, we may think of those things. And I love that about the group, because we would think of something like that. Okay, you're in a wheelchair, we're going to do this. Here's your ramp. here's this, it gets that help. And I think a lot of people who don't know about it may want to be part of it, but they're afraid to ask. And so with us being able to talk to them and bring them into it is the best way.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think you're absolutely right when you say that being afraid to ask is something that a lot of people deal with. Another thing that I've found is that a lot of us come up with our own ways of doing things. So, it's I'm trying to think of a good way to give an example here. But if I go somewhere and I'm doing a troop, if there's something that I just can't do, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm just going to compensate, and chances are that unless you're really paying attention, you won't know that I'm having some issue. Now my particular challenge is I have a cardiac condition. So if you decide we're going to go on a 5-mile hike, I'm probably going to meet you at the end, because endurance is not really my thing. How have you guys found that you're able to deal with that? And the second part of that question is, how do you help others deal with that? So Alvin, let's start with you this time. We've been putting you at the end every question. So how does that work for you? Did I freeze?
Or Alan?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Alan.
Albin Johnson. I'm sorry.
Oh, me.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'll try to enunciate better.
That's fine. So for me, I do a lot more meeting of people than the average person does, and so I try and single out people that I feel like aren't the obvious ones. And particularly, I get made fun of by my wife a lot for being cargo shorts guy conventions, because I'll walk around in my cargo short, and it's on purpose so that the leg's visible. I feel like for people that don't have a readily visible disability, it draws them out. It becomes a conversation piece. We talk about how big the family is, and T brings up a good point that the Legion is so amazing in its costumes that sometimes the standards can be so daunting that people kind of shut down and say, well, I'm going to stay on the sidelines. I'm not going to even engage the club in terms of how I can become a member. So for me, it's a big challenge for me to pull that out of them. Well, at troops, it happens a lot. Like, I was one of the few at the Rose Parade that had to step off to the side and get picked up. I couldn't make the whole thing. And Pascal Biondi, a founder of the Swiss Garrison, who passed away sadly this year, he was in the van with me. And it's always a challenge for me to look around and say, how can we lift the next person up? We had to rescue an Emperor Palpatine at Celebration a couple of years ago from heat exhaustion, and that was not disability related that I know of. But it's a lot about just finding out a way to get that person, to pull that person up with you. And you don't need to be disabled to see that happening. People do it all the time. You see, there's nothing more funny to me than two stormtroopers trying to help each other reach that bit of plastic that they can't reach, or you hear the canister fall. So for me, it's just putting it out there, warts and all, saying, look, if this guy can do it, you can do it. And let's find a way to get you on board.
That's a great answer. Now, Alan,
not Alvin.
No. So you kind of touched on some of this, how you relate to other people.
Yeah.
How do you help other people kind of over the hump? You're somewhere, you're dealing with, with your particular situation, you see someone else struggling. How do you jump in and help them without being intrusive?
No, actually, that's a good question. And a lot of the times what I'll do is I know how I feel. I mean, my biggest problem is I have a artificial knee, and I had it replaced and so on. And my cartilage is totally messed up also, as you probably understand. So what I do is I see people that are getting tired. I see people that are getting fatigued, and they want to keep on going and keep on going. And I explain to them, I tell them, I say, hey, if you can't do it, it's not that you're quitting. It's just that you can't do it. Everybody has that problem. I can't do it at times. So I explain to them, I tell them, And then also, if it is just a little bit of they're a little bit down, because there's other things that are, of course, as the handicapped, as you all are putting it as handicap. I think it's not handicap. I think it's just an extra ability we all have. But just try to pump them up. Let them know that it's okay to stop. It's okay to continue on. If you need help, just help them. And I think they really do appreciate it. And that's not only just, like you said, for handicaps. I think it's also for the individual troops, because you get new troopers that are out there, they lock their knees up. And especially in these parades, they're falling out, or they're at the con and they're trying to do things like myself. My last one, I know I'm being a little bit long, over at the, what was it? Star Wars Day over at the George Mason. I had to stop. It was just too much for my leg. I just couldn't do it. So what I did was I went to the side, I stopped, and instead of that, I let people take pictures, and that's what I do. I mean, like I said, just keep it moving, let them just help. That's all you need to do is help. They understand. I don't know much else I can say.
No, that's a great answer. And sort of piggybacking on that, T, I think you've touched on some of this before. When you're at one of these places doing this stuff, how do you sort of help other people? Because not only do you have to deal with your own business, but you have to deal with taking care of other people too, because that's what we do. We don't go to these things and operate in a vacuum. So how does that play in?
Well, it's kind of a two-part answer for me anyway. One is everybody in the group has something different going on, and that can bring a way to help each person as well. Example is, for me, mobility is a big issue. I have a walker or a wheelchair, so I have to have that mobility. So a lot of times when you see somebody and you know that, you kind of check for what will work for them and let them know, hey, we've got this, or this will work, and that helps. To help them while they're in part of it, a lot of it is kind of like what Alan had said. If you're in the parade or whatnot, I would put it on me, because there's a difference between somebody who is not used to having different discriminations and issues and stuff like that than it is for someone who does. So I know for someone like me, I would keep pushing forward. Somebody else might not think it's that big of a deal, but for someone like me, it is, because you set out to do this goal and you didn't do it, and that can hurt you mentally on that aspect of it. So I would go up and say, hey, I need to stop, or I need to slow down. Could you slow down with me and we can talk? When you see that, then that brings out of talking and then maybe stopping, instead of putting it on, it's okay to not finish. It's like, hey, how about we do it together? And slowing down and making them feel like they're still accepted with that, instead of, being put out. Do you see what I mean? Kind of trying to, I'm having a rough time explaining things today. So if I am,
I think you did great. And your answer really made me think of, how it feels when, a parade, like for me, a parade is particularly meaningful because, like I said, endurance is not my thing. So if we're walking, it's not, if it's a longer parade, it's not hard for me to get winded. Mm-hmm. And when I don't feel like I have to try to keep up when they'll walk with me, mm-hmm. You're right. That's, that's what you want. But and I'm curious about this because I know how I am, but I'm going to ask you guys. So Alan, Alan, I'm going to ask you this. If you're doing something somewhere, so you're at a troop, you're at an event, what is your inclination when it comes to you hitting your limits? Will you say, all right, I've had enough, or will you kind of push it, as long as as long as you can?
I'm kind of like T. I have a tendency of pushing it more than I can. I think it's from my background in military and other things that I've done. When I feel tired, I see if I can do more and more. Now there is a point where my physical limitations are there and I have to stop, but I'm proud that I continued on as much as I can. If I pull out, it's because I just can't do it. And I think that should be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
T, what about you? So you're at an event and you're kind of hitting your wall. How how do you react to that? What do what is your response?
A lot of times, if I have a plan ahead of time, I make sure I know when I can have a break. I have my family that is so supportive. The three of us, are doing the 501st together. So having that support help. Seeing someone else needs help actually helps me some because it makes me stop, slow
Yeah.
down, assist somebody else, and it's actually helping me, even though you're there helping somebody else. I'm one that does push myself. I was at uh, not RavenCon, Mysticon before
Mhm.
COVID, and I'm walking around as Mara Jade with my service dog, my walker, and my IV pole with an IV running and still going. Sometimes it's hard to slow down when you're excited about something, but I've noticed with the group, I was accepted right off the bat. No big deal, walking around with my IV pole. Wasn't a big deal. Still part of it.
Now, Albin, how about you? Obviously you've been dealing with this for a while. So, how do you react in situations like that?
I'm I gotta say I'm a lot like Alan. I'm a little hard headed. There have been times when I've pushed myself too far, and we've got a basic drill that I've done at every event since we did a fan film back in 2002. Very little fan film out in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it's the first time I've ever had a trooper pass out from heat exhaustion on set. And I found out how quickly you can get armor off and how quickly you can dump ice water on them. But I've been usually that guy. When I was in Singapore a couple of years ago, everybody warned the white guy, "Hey, you be careful. We're in the tropics." And we watched as one of their Anakin dropped out. So my wife will tell you that I'm very hard headed about it. Now, um, that's a very good question. Like you want to practice what you're preaching. Like how do you set those limits and then ask people to follow them if you're not going to follow them? For me, it's very important for us to be in a safe environment, to have a lot of the logistics worked out for the event. Where is your safe space? It's usually your changing room. And I'm a big believer. I think it was Alan talking about this, that you've really got to be ready with the speech that it's okay to hit pause on this, or maybe even pack up early, and don't invalidate the magic of the experience. A long time ago, when I actually thought I was going to work out, they said the key is to get to the gym, and then you'll end up working out. And I always say to people, well, you showed up. That's huge. The difference between you not showing up and showing up is infinite. And the fact you showed up, even if after 15 minutes you felt like something happened, it came along, and don't feel like that ruined it. It didn't ruin it for us, or the other people involved. It didn't ruin it for the fans. All we do is we care about you. I think that's an important message especially for new members or people new to the club or new to the detachment, is to let them know that there's no harm, no foul. We're here for you. And I think that'll encourage people, A, to come back, B, for other people to join, and C, for them to try again if they feel like they've failed. There is no fail. We're just we just want to keep that positivity going, but also to make sure everyone's safe.
Yeah, and it's interesting, listening to all your answers about that. I know that I push myself when it's not a good idea. Like heat is, you mentioned heat, and heat is something that we don't mix well, particularly not anymore. But I know that I'll push it. And I'm the next question I have for you is related to what I'm about to say. One of the reasons that I push it is because it's a lousy feeling when either someone makes you feel bad for saying I can't do this, or and in my experience, what's almost worse is people just kind of ignore it. Like you didn't. There's no, if you're not there, it didn't really matter. I don't know if you guys have experienced anything like that, but I'm curious to find out if you have. So T, let's start with you. Have you had any experiences? And I don't necessarily mean with this group. Let me clarify. I'm not asking, you to pinpoint a time with the 501st, but just in general, have you had an experience like that?
Yeah, I have, because a lot of times with me being in a wheelchair or whatnot, or my walker, when I was teaching disability awareness, I would get the question of, well, what do I say to somebody in a wheelchair? Or I feel invisible when I'm in my wheelchair. Waiting in line to go to the bathroom. I'm still in line, but people go right past you. It's like you're not even there. And it gets very hard dealing with that. And it's really hard to stay positive through all of that. I think that's one of the hardest things. And that's really, those experiences can be really tough for everybody, because you feel like, you want to still be able to participate and be worth that event. And like with me doing an event or something like that, like today I'm having a good day, I try to do as much as I can on that day, because I may not have another good day for another week or two. So that's where I get to where I push myself. And I have felt that way, where I've done something that is really good or really helped, but because, I can't get over there because my wheelchair's over here, you're kind of looked over a lot. Mm-hmm.
Albin, is that something? Albin Johnson, is that something? Next time, I'm gonna just number you two. Is this something that you've seen? I mean, in your own life, but also, you've had the opportunity to kind of meet a lot of people and go to a lot of events. Is something like this stuff like representative of things that you've seen in your experience? I think you're still muted. Well, I'm sure what he said. There we go.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, this is very much a real part of my life experience, even before the handicap. A few people know about one of the first troops I ever did was at DragonCon, trying to get the Legion's name out there. We were the squad at the time, and our big moment was the costume masquerade on Saturday night with Anthony Daniels, and I staged the whole thing. And at the last second, I couldn't make it up the stairs. And my friends can tell you just how bad I felt after that it was very invalidating. And it's just really hard sometimes for some members to come back from that. I think that's why this group is so important. The Legion as a whole, I've been very encouraged to see that people are very much about re-invalidating people, because it's very, I like what T's saying about being invisible. There's so many times when I have parents jerking on their kids in stores because the kid is curious. They want to know about this guy with the weird leg. And we have to be inviting. We have to invite people to say, you know what, it's okay. I'm a freak. It's fine. I'm different than, and I have accommodations for that. But I'm here, I'm counted, count me. And that's true not only, in the Legion, but also in real life. So it's just important, and it's also okay. This is a lesson for everybody with disabilities. It's okay for you to have a bad day and say, I'm not going to be the poster child of disabled people or disabilities. Today, I'm just going to be human and just have a bad day. So it's good for us to try and be an example, but a lot of times you just can't.
Mm-hmm. So just as a follow-up to you, so you mentioned the story about Anthony Daniels not being able to make it on stage. I'm curious, what do you wish had happened instead? Like, I'm not trying to poke at any one person, but what response from the other people would what would have helped you?
That's a very good question, because that was a very weird time, because everybody in that group was out for themselves. No one wanted to be part of this 501st business. I've had people come up to me now 20 something years later and go, I'm so sorry, Al, I had no idea. Well done. This is huge. And I'm like, yeah. The day you could have been counted is past. It was heartbreaking. No, they saw this as the opportunity that I had set up for them to be in the spotlight with the star and enjoy all the accolades. And I was gutted to think that, well, okay, guys, I don't know if I can make it. Oh, I'll see you. You don't see that nowadays because there wasn't that sense of identity. I'm much more encouraged now that people would at the very least go, man, I am so sorry. You know what? Hoorah, give me the cheer up speech and wait for me to go ahead, So I think it was a different time. I don't think I've ever encountered that in the Legion because it's such a tight family, which is good.
Now, Alan, you mentioned that you've had military experience, which is in some ways relatable to what we do here, I guess.
Very much relatable.
So how do you relate? So how do you think that those how military people who obviously have quite a bit of experience dealing with disabilities, how do you think that experience relates to what we do?
That's actually a very good question. Well, first thing is we're all trying to live and do what we love to do. With the military, of course, they're trying to live either in the military, and for us, we're doing it within the 501st. But also, all of us have to live in the real world, and we all have. I call the handicaps from other people, the way they look at us. They say, "Oh, those guys are in the military. They have some sort of handicap because they're acting weird. They don't understand that it's actually a problem they have to resolve with. They have to live with every single day, just like we do." So I think the combine of the military and the 501st and anybody that has a handicap, even if they're not in the military or with the 501st, has the same thing. They all have to deal with it every single day. And they have to explain that. I hate to say it, but nowadays you still have to explain yourself for being handicapped. Like my handicap, you don't see it. So people are saying, "Oh, you could do this." No, I can't because it's just not my ability, and they don't understand that. But we all have to deal with it in daily life, physically, mentally, and just get the word out to people. That's the thing,
Now,
Okay.
I'm going to stick with you for a moment because something
Okay.
you said is something I relate to. You said that people don't see your handicap, and so when someone says, kind of overlooks that, does that make you feel defensive? How when someone sort of makes it sound like, oh, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to do this. What would you like? Yeah, I know that you may not say it to them, but what would you like to say to them?
I like to tell them to try to be in my shoes, try to feel how we feel. Then you'll understand, and that's the only way you're going to really understand. And that's, in short, that's what I would say to them. In my mind, there's other words that I can't say in public, but
I think we all have that experience. Let me pivot here as we enter sort of the last little bit of our time together. And we've talked a little bit about what the Walking Wounded is and why it exists, and we've talked a little bit about what it's like to be a member. What I'd like to know is, what do you think our role is in the larger 501st? So we have all these other detachments. There's the Clone Troopers detachment and the Stormtrooper detachment, and those guys who keep running into trees and fighting with the teddy bear detachment. But we are kind of unique. There's not too many detachments that are built like we are. So what is our role here? Let's start with you, T.
Okay. I think one of the biggest roles is we're going to support each other, and we can look out for each other with different events that you go to. You might know, hey, I know this person needs this. Make sure this is there for them, so it's not always asking. The other thing is that I think needs to be just as important is disability awareness for the people who are not part of the group, because they might not know what to say to that person in the wheelchair, as well. And you want them to know, hey, this is okay. You can ask this, you can do this, you can bring them over. It's, so having that disability awareness for everybody in the 501st, I think is very important, because then that makes it, easier. I wouldn't say easier for our group, but it helps our group out to be able to manage and successfully be part of the different events, because everyone's going to look out for the different things that might need to happen for that event.
Alan, what about you? So, military background, 501st guy. What do you feel like the role of the Walking Wounded and your member as the Walking Wounded is in the bigger umbrella of the 501st?
I think, like with Redwood T, make sure everybody has the knowledge to know who we are, what we do, and we are part of the 501st. The second thing is, and I think probably is one of the most important things on my side, is being an ambassador. Being an ambassador, put the word out, and it's also going to put the word out to other people. People don't know about it. I mean, I didn't even know we had an organization like this until I tried to make one and found out we already had it. And there's a lot of people out there that don't know within the organization and our own. So we need to be ambassadors. And that's the biggest thing, is just keep on getting the word out, make sure people understand what it is. That it's not just people that have physical, legs, or no legs, no arms, no whatever. It can be other things. It could be in the head. It could be in the heart. It could be anywhere. So we need to really be ambassadors, every single one of us. And I'm not just talking about the people that are in the Walking Wounded. I think the people that are all around, everybody in the 501st needs to also be ambassadors and let people know that we do support the disability impaired.
Now I'm going to ask you a slightly different question here, Albin.
Oh.
And so I've heard both of these folks here have talked about being an ambassador and how that's important. So obviously, if you're in this group, you probably know your way around a doctor's office pretty well. Kind of comes with the territory. How is being part of a group like this helped you relate to people, other people that are not in, costuming or whatever that you run into in these places?
How does being a member of the Walking Wounded help me relate to people outside?
So you run into other people who maybe have similar disabilities, or challenges. How does being part of this group help you relate to them? You're an ambassador. What does that mean?
Okay, well, I like to point to the Walking Wounded as being a shining example of what we can do while still being who we are. For one thing, your original question is what does it mean about being the Walking Wounded? I think we're a growth industry. First of all, everybody gets older; they're all going to be joining us eventually. And I have you hear it now. I have a prediction that at some point in Star Wars, they're going to show the recycling plant where they're recycling troopers and putting them back together. And these are going to be troopers that have limbs reattached or artificial hearts, and put them back out on the battlefield. And right there, we're going to be the most canon of any member of the Legion. But I do, in all seriousness, I point to the Walking Wounded as an example of what you can do if you really put your mind to it. This is not a pity party. We're not here raising a banner to go, wow, we've got it tougher than you, feel bad for us. This is we're proud. We're willing to let our disabled freak flag fly, and we're able to do that with pride. There are a couple other groups that are unofficial detachments like Pride Squadron that are doing much of what we are doing. They're not disabled and they don't feel sorry for themselves. What they're doing is they're recognizing their identity and celebrating it just like we are. And if we can bring resources together to help us and they do the same thing, then great. But for a lot of the people that I counsel, and so I, outside of the Legion, I do talk to people who are facing elected amputations and that sort of thing. It's a real struggle to get them to calm down and realize it's not the end of the world. But I use the Walking Wounded as a perfect example. And 99 times out of 100, someone's a Star Wars fan. They go, huh, wow. And it's an inspiration. And that's what I want every member of this group to be, is as a quiet inspiration to other people that, yes, you've got it rough. We do too. We understand you. And through our example, I hope we can show people you can make it.
I think that's a great point. I know that in my life, I am not asking for or wanting people to feel sorry for me, and so the idea that this group is sort of, meant to support each other and not say, hey, feel bad for us, is an important one that actually leads into one of the final questions I have for you guys today. Is there any particular group, and maybe it's during the holidays, but is there any particular group that you feel a special affinity for, that you feel like you're able to relate to more than uh, more than other people are, maybe want to or can? And Alan, let's start with you.
Well, I have actually a few groups, but I
Okay.
do a lot of veterans groups. I really do get into supporting them, especially for the Christmas holidays. And I mean, just an example. I mean, I donated $500 to a family that didn't have anything, just so they can actually have a Christmas and give gifts to their kids. But those type of things, that's what I get into. So
Okay. That's a great answer. And you feel like your experiences kind of give you more of an understanding than maybe the average person would have.
100%, 100%. And again, I mean, I know I throw the 501st back into it, but they kind of put some new visions in my head too. Not handicap visions, but good visions.
All right. T, what about you?
Well, I was a part of like some service dog groups, and you get people that aren't so nice. So I created my own service dog group in my area, and that is helping people decide if they need a service dog, decide if it's right for them. We have attorneys and trainers part of the group, so we can actually meet up together. Um, and help with training or something else somebody needs, or like with me, my dog's already trained, he can go help the other ones do their tests or whatnot. And that's really been great. I've met some great people with it.
Mhm.
One of the issues I see with it, though, is a lot of people want to, like we were talking about feeling bad for us, gauge who's worse. I see that a lot where I get, well, for me, I've had 39 surgeries and, a whole lot of stuff. And they might have only one thing. And they're like, well, do I deserve this? Because, you have more things going on. And everyone needs to know whatever they're going through is just as important as something else. There's no contest to it. It's all helping each other no matter what their situation is. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, it does.
Yeah. I've seen that so many times where it's like, no, you have to do what's best for you. And so creating that group has helped me a lot. It's helped me have something to do, somewhere to go when I'm not hooked up to my IV, and helping people in the area, just like literally hands-on helping. And that's been wonderful. My service dog loves the golden retriever we see all the time. He comes out of position to give her kisses, and I'm like, stop, get back over here.
Albin, what about you?
My heart is I have a really big heart for kids and for teaching. I used to referee tournaments or games for Whiz Kids HeroClix tournaments at the local comic shop, and now you have the Dungeons and Dragons Adventure League and that sort of thing. But I got to say, probably my biggest calling is one that I don't predict when it's going to happen or that sort of thing. But I feel like sometimes I have to be available for a lot of the broken people out there. I've gone through some unique tragedies in my life that I inadvertently find myself talking to people who are at risk of losing their children, have just lost a child. And, we lost Katie, and I find myself counseling them. Just this last year in LA, I was out at California 3 times last year. And on the second trip, one of the Legion members there broke down about, he was having marital problems and his wife had left. And I'd been through something like that. And it's nothing special about me other than my bad luck, but sometimes you're just called to have a heart for people where they are, and be on the level that they are. And like Tia is saying, it's not a contest so much. People say to me all the time, "Wow, you're just one of the bravest people I know." I'm like, there's people who've had it a lot worse than me. And so we just have to have that heart to be ready. Every Legion member, I believe, gets into this to be ready to help others. And my calling is just, hey, meet that person wherever they are at that time.
Well, one of the things that I've found that this group has done for me is it's kind of given me the ability to step outside of myself. About this time last year, I was in the hospital undergoing what ended up being a pretty rough time, a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. And at one point, so I go to a children's hospital because once you start going there, you know, that's where they want you to keep going, even when you're much older than the average child. And at one point, my wife and I found ourselves walking around the ICU. You know, they said stay near your room, but I don't listen very well. So we were taking laps around the floor. And, you know, I was walking by these rooms and you see the kids in there and the parents, and, you know, that could have been my parents, you know, way back when. And there were a couple rooms I was able to stop into and say, hey, you know, it gets better. You know, there's hope. There's the outside. And I don't know that I specifically said, hey, I'm part of this group called the 501st, because it's kind of a big conversation to have, you know, with a parent and, you know, a sick kid, but it definitely plays into it. You know, knowing there's a group like this out there has been extraordinarily helpful in situations like that, and kind of, you know, it gives you something to fight for, and something to help you remember you're not by yourself. And I think that's what you guys have said here today. So we're almost out of time, but before we are done, so I've gotten really good at this particular event that we've been doing, this InfernoCon thing. But Albin, you know, you've always been kind of a large in life figure to you know, to me personally, and to a lot of us on the InfernoCon staff, as it were. And so because you have been so instrumental in so many ways, but particularly for the Walking Wounded, we would like to make you an honorary member of Inferno.
Oh, shut up. Oh, I saw you giving these out and I was so jealous. What? Oh, that is awesome, man. Wow.
You know, I'm sure that you're part of a lot of 501st groups, but you know, if there's anyone who is deserving of this, I think it's you. If for no other reason than this group that you've started here has touched so many people's lives, and in more than a small way, I think you are responsible for events like InfernoCon, because without what you did, you know, that we wouldn't, you know, we wouldn't be sitting here today. So thank you so much, guys.
Welcome.
You were a fantastic group to talk with. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being willing to talk with me and share some of your experiences. I'm going to turn this back over to Tim now. Before I do, I want to remind everybody we are doing this for Make-A-Wish. So please make sure that you donate. We've got about 2 hours left. We still have some very exciting content coming up, and you are not going to want to miss the final panel at 8 o'clock. So, Tim, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am.
Right.
Fantastic group. I just have to say that you're all an inspiration. And really, I think, as I said in chat, that if each of us as human beings had more empathy in this world, it would be a better place. So, you know, that is one of my superhuman abilities, is to have empathy for other people. Doesn't matter who they are, what they're going through, you know. So you're all wonderful, and thank you for this great panel and letting people know that this is out there. So thank you again.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
For hosting.
This has been great.
Yep, very much.
All right, so now we're done, and for everyone on the Zoom call still, but we're going to now transition to another one of our guests, our panelists. His name is Mike Quinn. This was recorded earlier. It is a wonderful interview at
We're off the stream.
the 26 minutes, and we'll be back to do the next panel, which is the playing games on our phones, because that's what I do all day. My wife hates it. So we'll be back with this live in just a few short minutes. So enjoy that. Enjoy this interview.
All right. Well, welcome to InfernoCon. We are sitting here with our very special guest, Mr. Mike Quinn. I'm also joined by Randy Ward, who has the distinction of being the only person to do this character in Maryland. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that we are doing this to benefit Make-A-Wish. So please check the donate button at the bottom of the screen and be generous. You know, this is a great cause. So Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. Good to be here. And yeah, good to meet you all on this fine day. Just to reiterate, Make-A-Wish, of course, you know, there's a long history of the Star Wars guys and Make-A-Wish that goes back a long way. And it's always a thrill and a pleasure to be doing something with Make-A-Wish. It's so wonderful. So thank you guys out there as well for taking part in this and contributing, and whatever you can do will be great as well, because it's needed more now than any time ever, I think. So but meanwhile, while we're doing all that, we can have fun too. So thank you.
Well, I think we're going to start off, and I'm going to let Randy go ahead and take the first question. When we were talking before the interview here, he sent me this long list of questions that were so much better than the ones I came up with. I'm gonna let him start off.
All right. Well, it's an honor to finally talk with you. You and I have chatted online on Facebook several times. True story, when I was getting my costume approved, I was waiting on the judges, but then on the Nine Numb Facebook group, you said, I love it. And I didn't care what the judges said because I had your approval on the costume. So thank you for that.
I remember that. That's so funny. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, was it? I think, but it's like, you know what? It's great. You know, I didn't see why there would be a problem, but you did get it approved anyway, didn't you? As I recall. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, come on. You know, if I like it, it's got to be okay. I mean, you know,
when I had your blessing, that was fine by me. So going into the questions, many, myself included, consider you a master puppeteer. You are a master of many areas and many franchises. So beyond Star Wars, which we will talk about at length, of course, in a Star Wars panel, your filmography includes you working on Muppets and The Dark Crystal. So
yes. Yes, lots and lots of Muppets and Dark Crystal for sure. And yeah, still work with Muppets now. So yeah.
You worked with Jim Henson, yes?
Yes, for the last 10 years of his life, basically. He hired me for my first proper job when I was 16, you know, straight out of school. So you know, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Jim doing that for me at that time. And you know, we did the Great Muppet Caper first and the Dark Crystal. They were a 2-picture deal back to back. So on Dark Crystal is where we learned the art of creatures and animatronics, which was, of course, you know, a new thing then. And then Return of the Jedi was directly after that. So we were a sort of a natural fit to work creatures for Return of the Jedi. So it all just flowed together, and you know, it's because of Jim Henson, basically.
Yeah, I kind of figured when I looked at your work, I'm like, he worked with Jim Henson. It's like master puppeteer to master puppeteer, master apprentice. So I just wanted to ask you if you did directly work with him in the past. So Dan, over to you.
Yeah, definitely did. Yeah, lots. I used to help him with Kermit and double for Ralph the dog and all sorts on the.
Oh my God.
Yeah, movies and commercials and TV shows, all kinds of things. Basically between 80 and 90, essentially.
Wow, that is awesome. That is amazing.
My brother and I watched the Muppet movies a lot when we were growing up. It was something. It was a big favorite around the Brown household. So the question I have for you, and this is maybe kind of a weird one, but so you started working with Star Wars for Return of the Jedi, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. That was, in fact, my very first. I mean, I was a huge fan of the first 2 movies anyway, and especially when Yoda came along in Empire Strikes Back. So to then be sort of pulled into that final episode of that trilogy. How old was I? 17 at that point. Still, I wasn't quite 18 yet. As a fan of the movies, you can imagine, here we are, we're going to find out what's going to happen in the final installment. So it was amazing for me as a not just as a performer, but as a fan as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was curious about when Star Wars came out. Was that like a big deal to you? Was that something you really paid attention to, or because I've heard stories from people who said, I didn't really, it didn't really matter much until later. But was that something that was really a big deal when it happened?
Yeah, it was for me. And I was in England, of course, when Star Wars came out, as we called it back then, Star Wars. That was the name of the movie, and it still will be to me. It's funny that. But it was a big deal. What was I, 11 or something? I don't know how old I was when I saw it, and I went back multiple times to keep watching that movie. But yeah, once I saw pictures of Yoda, for some of the press releases for Empire Strikes Back, I was already a Muppet fan anyway, so I knew that this was sort of Muppet related via Frank Oz, and he was a hand puppet. But I was like, how is this thing going to move? How is he going to what's he going to sound like? And how are they doing this? What's going on here? So I was absolutely, we could see him like head to toe standing on the dirt, on the ground. Muppets don't do that. So I was really excited to see that. And then I was even more hooked, from Empire Strikes Back onwards as well. So yeah, it's good.
That's a great answer. And I think Randy has a question that sort of dovetails into that nicely.
Yeah, it does kind of continue on that discussion there. So you obviously big Star Wars fan, watching what was going on with the puppetry and stop motion photography. There's so much in Empire Strikes Back that was just amazing on the production side.
Yeah.
When it came down to the casting process for Return of the Jedi, how did you get your in? Was it through the Henson projects? What was your audition and casting process like for that?
Well, let's see. People are going to hate me for this, but there was no audition. And basically there was a good relationship between Henson and Lucas anyway, of course, already. So and literally we finished Dark Crystal at Elstree Studios in the autumn of 81. And then I think just a few months later, I had an interview with Robert Watts, producer, in his office at Elstree Studios, saying, we know you work animatronics and you worked on Dark Crystal, and we know what you can do. We think we can use you for some puppet work on the next movie, on Revenge of the Jedi. So we just chatted for 10 minutes, literally in his office. And that was it. So I knew I'd be on board, but I didn't know, nobody, I think, really quite knew what I was going to be doing. And at one point, I think they had me sort of on standby. They actually measured me up for Jabba the Hutt inside, just in case they had a problem with access to Dave Barkley. But in fact, it all worked out fine in the end. So I was spared the pain and torture of having to work Jabba. Dave and Toby Philpott and Mike Edmonds and all those guys, of course, did a great job. So, but I was kept busy with, we started out I was assisting Tim Rose with Admiral Akbar and Slice Noodles. That was the first thing we did. And then it just kind of went on from there. They pulled me in to do some baby Ewoks and Reese, the hand puppet version of Reese in Jabba's palace. And then everything just kind of went on from there. Frank knew me from assisting him with Fozzie Bear and Muppet Caper and things like that. And it was the same job really for Yoda, doing the right hand for Frank Oz. So, and me being not too big, the set was really small and stuff. And he knew he could trust me. He knew what I could do. And Yoda had a very small hand as well. So it was just like a 3-fingered glove, kind of like that. So he said, yeah, I want you to help me with Yoda. I was like, yeah, brilliant. So that it just kind of happened almost organically. And I never really auditioned. I still, even to this day, I've hardly ever done any auditions. And usually when I do, either I don't get the job or I decide to do something else instead. So it's very rare that I actually ever audition and that leads to a job. I could count those on 2 fingers, probably 3 at the most, over the last 40 years. So
wow. Now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna watch Return of the Jedi. Now that I know what puppets you actually were involved with, I'm gonna watch it in a different light now because I did not know that before. So
yeah, that's the great thing, though. You know, when you're a puppeteer, you can do anything. You can play male, female characters, young, old, humanistic, or creaturey, animal. You know, and that's the great thing. So you go on from one character to the next, as I did on Dark Crystal, and it's what Muppet performers do as well. So it's great. And even on the last movie, I was doing cable controls for other characters. Oh, not cable controls. That was years ago. Radio control faces for other characters, as well as Nine Numb. You know, it's great. So you can just keep performing and be part of the crew and part of the team. It's really nice. So
which is a great segue, perfect segue to Dan's next question. We're doing good on the segues today, Dan.
All right. Yes.
Almost like
I would like a segue. That would be very nice, and I could wheel around this forest and things. But anyway,
I've been asking my wife for one, and she won't go for it. So it's interesting that you mentioned the difference in how it was working on the 2 films, because that was actually a question I had for you. What was the difference, or a difference or 2 that you noticed between working on Return of the Jedi and then, you know, these later projects, later films where the technology had evolved and changed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there are some things that are not any different at all. I mean, it's just the same. You know, the beautiful sets and the ships and the hundreds of extras and you know, of course, we were shooting on film again as well, thanks to JJ. So I thought film might have been a thing of the past, but we were doing film again too for most of the shots. So that was all the same. What was different was, to me, the size of the crew had exploded. There were like 4 times the amount of people working on these films than back in the 80s. Because security was crazy. You know, it never used to be. You could just walk into a studio and on a set and be like, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" You know, now you have to you know, get biometrics done and it has to go through the president and all kinds of things before you can even step even anywhere near a set. So that's different too. But essentially, yeah, I mean, monitors are now, you know, thin and light. They're LED or LCD screens or whatever. Back in the day, there used to be these big, heavy tube monitors that, you know, if you had to wear one around your neck, that there were these that generate so much heat, and the picture quality wasn't that good because with the technology they were using for the video feeds, as soon as they turned over the film, you get this flicker on your monitor. So it was kind of like looking through a haze, you know, to see what you were doing. Now you just get a live video feed just like this. There might be a delay now slightly because of it's going through analog to digital converters and all sorts of things, but or the other way around. But the picture's clear at least, so we can see what we're doing now. So that's a good thing. Also now with the technology, they can use post-production to hide heads or hide puppet rods or things that we don't need in the shot anymore. They couldn't do that back then. You know, more stuff had to be in camera for real, and that was it. But and the other big difference I've noticed is lighting. You know, back then it used to be so hot and lights would explode above your head and all kinds of things. Lenses anyway, you know, they get so hot. So there'd be so much heat generated, and they'd be using toxic fog and smoke. You know, now it all has to be safe, you know, but I think it was quite carcinogenic back then. But now they just, you know, I guess the cameras are so sensitive, and the film stock and camera sensors and all the different things they're using, that the lighting has evolved so much now to where they just put on a few lights and some diffusion or some soft bounce, and they seem to be able to light a scene with so little now and just be so much more subtle about it, and the sets are much cooler too. So that's actually a big, to me, that's almost the big difference, I think, that I've noticed, and I'm grateful for, of course. So it's good though, you know. I mean, it's evolved, but only very slightly and in a good way. You know, we're still essentially making films the same way films were made. When was it? 120 years ago? When was film invented? 110? I don't know. Anyway,
early 1900s.
something like that. Moving pictures. So we're really not doing anything that different, essentially.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the security and things like that to get on the sets, because I think that actually leads into Randy's question.
Yeah, obviously you're very helpful to all the fan groups. You're always out helping us doing charity stuff, so thank you on that one. Another plug for Make-A-Wish here before I ask my next question.
Right. Oh my goodness, no, thank you. Yeah, it's fun anyway. You know, and if you're having fun, then it's a win-win, isn't it? Really. So
actually, it is. So, what has your experience been with the Star Wars fan base? You know, there's millions of fans around the world. What's your experience with them?
It's at the beginning, we were all, of course, working in a vacuum back in the day. We'd make the movies and think, well, I did my best, and I hope that I don't know what takes they're going to use or if it's even going to make it at all, and what people think of it. Who knows? So you'd do the movie and you'd move on and maybe see it a year later when it comes out or whatever, and hear, see some reviews. And that's it. But everything's changed now. It started to change even really before social media became a thing, of course, when conventions started to pick up a little bit. And I started signing right around, I want to say maybe 2000-ish or thereabouts, so about 20 years ago. So I'd already been, working for 20 years before I did my first series of conventions, and that was my first sort of real feedback from fans, and I was just really surprised at how much people cared and enjoyed the character, and how much they cared about him, and the things that they would remember that I didn't even know was a thing, things that he'd say and his little laugh and stuff. I didn't even know that was a thing. So yeah, so suddenly I started to get this feedback from everybody. And a validation too, in many ways. And yeah, they've always just been amazing, because they tell me how much it means to them, and now when they go to I see them at shows, they're bringing their kids with them, and their kids were the same age they were when they first saw the first movie and things like that. So it's really great, but it's just so it's mind-blowing how vast and expansive this franchise is, globally and in different languages. It affects millions of people, and these movies are going to be seen, I guess, forever, long after we're all gone, in some form or other. So it's a bit hard to get my head around, but I do appreciate, how kind everyone has been to me, and very supportive of me as well. So, but I enjoy talking with the fans and hearing what they have to say. It's really nice, actually, because they treat you as friends, which is really precious.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned the laugh. When I got my costume done, that's what everybody asked for. So on my voice box, I have finger triggers for audio files. One of them is the laugh. Everybody wants to hear Nine's laugh.
Yeah, and I so wanted to get that somewhere into the new trilogy. It's like, okay, I need to get some of that, something, and there needs to be at least some point. There were some in the last movie. There were going to be some more scenes that he was involved in and doing different stuff. And as the movie evolved, that stuff got cut story-wise and for time as well. But I was like, I'm going to ask JJ, look, this is a big thing with the fans. I want to get the laugh in somewhere. And of course, everything was going on, and it was always serious stuff that, people fighting and dying and goodness knows what. So there was never an opportunity yet to get that laugh to, but that's where the the feedback from the fans comes in, because I really wouldn't have known. However, if this little guy comes back in any of the new stuff, well, he's not that little, actually. He's not really as small as that in real life. Then maybe I can put some of that stuff back in again, because in the Return of the Jedi, he was a much sort of younger, happy-go-lucky, wide-eyed guy, like, oh, we can do this, look at that, great, we're blowing up the Death Star, woohoo, brilliant. And then in the new trilogy, he's a lot older and more wrinkly and weathered, and a lot more serious, because there's so much at stake. So he kind of had to fly his X-wing and just be kind of serious about it all. So we saw like a much more mature 9-num, I think, more like 16-num probably in the last trilogy. but if they do a younger version of him in say the Lando stuff or something else, then that absolutely would be the time for me to be looking to get some of those things in, and some of those moves that he had, and some of that character back that he used to have, because I think that's partly why people like him so much. I always liked him because I thought he just looked cool anyway. He just looked so great. But
he does.
yeah. I mean, I just visually, he's appealing to me. I think he's a lovely, handsome little lad. But
of all the characters of all the alien species, he's very distinct of all the alien species in the Star Wars franchise, and that's why I love playing him as a costume.
Yeah, he that's the thing. It took me until I think last year to figure it all out. But basically, he's sort of an anti-creature. In Star Wars generally, there are creatures, monsters, and they tend to, a lot of them are sort of more realistic, and they have all this stuff going on, and they're very, very creaturey, shall we say. Whereas him, he's like completely the opposite. He's like this cartoon Muppet, basically, that's just like, oh, okay, yeah, and he's very posy and almost animaty, and very visual, and hopefully very clean. I tried to at least get some of that stuff in the few bits we finally do see in the movies, where he's being very specific, and there's not just a lot of stuff going on and movement happening all the time. So he's almost the opposite of what a Star Wars creature would be. In fact, I've almost, it's like I'm just making him into an animated cartoon, as though he was a hand puppet, where everything's very clean and readable, and very, very specific. So yeah, he breaks the rules, I think.
I like that. So I know Dan's going to get mad at me, because you and I could probably talk about this.
Oh yeah.
I can sit here and talk with you about this forever.
No, this is all very interesting, but I do have sort of one final question for you. And so this is our holiday special for InfernoCon. We did one of these back in the early fall. So this is our holiday version. And I would be remiss if I did not ask you if there is a memory that you have about a holiday in the past that sort of stands out. We all have these things that, you think of the holidays, you think of cookies or time with family. Is there something that would stand out to you as sort of the holiday memory that you would pick over maybe some of the others?
I think generally, I guess I get all warm and gooey when I think of when I was a little kid, and we used to go up to my grandmother's for the holidays, and she would spoil us, my sister and I. She was 2 years older than me. She still is 2 years older than me. It's strange. I haven't quite been able to catch up yet. And it was just, she actually owned a sweet shop, little candy store, as you would say, little local place. And it was in an old market town. And we'd always just get fed so well, and she would spoil us. And it was always just so exciting, just going up there. And yeah, I could probably think of many Christmases that were just like that, and she'd always put this was back in the day when I don't know if you had that tradition in the States, but you would they'd put a coin, a shilling or whatever it would be, in the Christmas pudding, and whoever, someone would get that slice, and they would have, I guess, prosperity for the rest of the year. It's an old-fashioned tradition, and they don't do it now because it's not hygienic and all sorts. But this is what my grandmother was like. See, she would get 2 coins, and she'd mark on the pudding where they both were, so that my sister and I, Hazel and I, would each get a slice with the coin in it, when it was served up, and we'd be so excited. Yeah, I got the coin, but she knew exactly where to cut the pudding. So yeah, it's great, it's wonderful, it's really nice, and I just hope that things are a bit wacky this year, and we're having to do things a bit differently. but I hope that we can all still connect and appreciate each other and look out for each other as much as we possibly can, and get through this. We've come this far, right, all of us, and next year will be different. So just be safe, take care, have fun, and be good to each other.
Well, we're so glad that you were able to join us. And before we let you go, I am the squad leader for Inferno Squad, which is our local Virginia group up in Northern Virginia.
Nice.
And then we have our larger group, Garrison Tyrannus, and that's the entire Virginia group. So it is an honor to me to be able to do this, but we would like to make you an honorary member of Inferno Squad. So we've got
yes.
Sorry, I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is our unit patch here.
Really? Oh, nice. Sweet. Oh, that's wonderful. Yay.
And then this is a really special patch that we made up for InfernoCon. So,
wow. Oh, that's brilliant.
We'll get this out to you, but we are so very grateful to you for donating your time.
Oh my goodness, thank you. You guys work hard. You know, I know what you all do. You put a lot of time, energy, and money, sometimes thanklessly, to do what you do. So and we all help each other, though. That's the thing, really. Nobody's special, I think. No, I'm not better than you guys. You guys are the ones that do all the work, like this, for example. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks to both of you for joining us. This has been just a fantastic. I've learned a lot of things. We are going to jump right to our next panel after this, so stick around.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks a lot. Cheers. May the force be with you.
And also with you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching that. It was wonderful seeing Mike Quinn. And we have our next panel now. Gonna give it to you, talking about playing Star Wars games on our phones. So, James, after you, sir.
Thank you very much, Tim. I know by now you probably are tired of seeing my face, but guess what? I got some more great guests I want you all to meet. So, without further ado, I like to introduce you to some fine folks of the Galaxy of Heroes community. So let's get right to it with the introductions. I will call out each person, just say your name, and tell everybody a little bit about where you're from. Bailey, we'll start with you.
My name is Bailey. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I am a student at Franklin University.
Fantastic. Mr. Mark?
Hi there. My name is Mark Cote. I'm from Canada, up in Canada, in Nova Scotia. Yeah.
Excellent. Mr. Chris?
I'm Chris, and I live in Pennsylvania. I'm an art gallery manager.
All right. And Mr. Adam?
My name's Adam. I live in Regina, Saskatchewan, up in Canada. I run a construction company, because what else do you do with a political science degree?
Very cool. So as you can see, this is another international panel where Americans and Canadians are able to join forces together. Well, with that out of the way, why don't we continue on with our panel proper? So as the title implies, this is more of the mobile game Galaxy of Heroes, if any of you viewers have played that. But for this panel, I want to go into a little bit more of the community aspect, because one of the great things about Galaxy Heroes that maybe not a lot of people know about is that there's a huge community out there when playing this game. And Mark, I think you'd probably be the right person to ask the first question, because you're responsible for overseeing a large amount of people in what they do with this game. You want us to tell us a little bit about that?
So with my role so first off, I have two accounts. So one account under that guild, I help out with especially recruitment and things like that. And then the other account, I help out with the territory battle, which is an aspect of an event in the game. So I come up with a plan, and then I tell people, okay, this is what the plan is. This is what we're doing. Now, with regards to our community that we've got with our BRG Alliance, what I do there, I, along with Adam, I'm one of the PR team leads, which so I'm responsible for. I get in touch with a lot of different guilds. I'm constantly messaging people from other guilds, setting them up, and making sure they know how to use all the resources that we have available to them with the alliance, and just keeping in touch with everybody, making sure things are running smoothly. And if any guilds needs any help or anything like that, I'm there for them.
Fantastic. Now, how long have each of you been playing the game? I know the game's been out for, I want to say, good 5 years now. How long have each of you been playing it? Chris, my understanding, you're one of the early adopters.
That's right.
And who here is probably the newest to the game?
That might be me, I think, with having been playing for about 2.5 years.
Yep.
Okay. Bailey, how long have you been playing?
I wasn't a day oneer, but I was probably like a week oneer.
Okay. And Adam, how long have you been playing?
I would have been in that first month or so at least. Hard to pin down that long ago, but yeah, not quite day one.
Okay. So we got a couple. So, and I think I've been playing probably since 2018, 2019. So I'm fairly new to it as well. But that's nice that we got kind of a good mix of both old and new playing the game. So for some of the early adopters, how much do you think the game has changed and evolved over time? Chris, what do you think the biggest change to Galaxy of Heroes has been for you?
They've added quite a bit of content, especially with when we first started. All there was gear. You had to star up characters to a certain level, and then you had to gear up your characters. But now they have added mods that add more depth to the character, and recently they have added relics for each character. So a special piece of equipment or a special weapon for each character that further makes them stronger, gives them different kind of statistics and that sort of thing to work with in the game. So it's become much more complex than when it started.
Interesting. So regarding the community aspect, obviously with a lot of mobile games, especially like massive multiplayer ones, it's important, that a lot of people are able to come together to work towards a common goal. But I think for Galaxy of Heroes, especially, the guilds that Mark runs, you guys seem to have gone more above and beyond in regards to, reaching out and communicating with all the members involved. How do you think Galaxy of Heroes has brought all of you guys closer together? And Adam, we can start with you.
Well, prior to taking on this role as a team leader for PR, after Zinix before me took over, we were running an Alliance podcast for a good long while, and especially during that, curating all of the different announcements and things that were going on. And we were a little smaller at that time, probably in the 600 or 700 range. I think we're well over 1,000 now. But I really started to get to know the individuals. I was doing announcements for people expecting their first child, or engagements, or announcing at the start of COVID some of the healthcare workers that we had working within the Alliance, trying to just spread the word on the people that we had that were working on the front lines and show a little bit of support. So really, it's especially in the alliance level stuff where we're trying to coordinate and communicate between such a large community of people. That's when you really start to get away from the characters that people are playing in the guilds that they're in, and really into the people that they are outward in the community and back into the real world.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Does anyone else feel like that, through Galaxy of Heroes that they've gotten closer, they've been able to increase their connections with others?
Yeah, I think that when I first started with the Alliance, I started to get to know the Alliance leader very well, and his wife and his son, and learned more about the 501st and their missions and what they do for the community, not only in their own community, but nationwide and actually worldwide. I was really taken aback by all the things that the 501st does for people and for children, and it brought me closer to him and his family. Yeah, I just really think it's been a very positive thing to be part of this community and the wider community with the 501st. It's been great.
And Bailey, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I also do my own streaming on Twitch, and through Galaxy of Heroes, I actually met some of the people that I tend to play games with, who have become some of my better friends. So both on a individual guild level, and then the open arms that the BRG Alliance allowed for my guild when we joined about 2.5, 3 months ago has been really great, and everyone's been super helpful, and have met, at this point, hundreds of people I would have never met without playing this game.
Very cool. Now, Mark, since you're one of the top people in running both these guilds, what do you think are some of the big challenges that you face on a daily basis in sort of managing everyone involved with this guild?
Well, it depends on which role. Like, there's different aspects, different parts that you're trying to manage. Like, but one that's always constantly been a challenge for almost every guild is recruiting, and keeping your members, keeping max members, 50 members. That's usually the biggest challenge for many guilds face, is because with the type of game this is, it's like, you ask anybody who's played the game, they play it on a daily basis, and you get the sense that you kind of need to remain competitive, to remain stick with the meta. So you typically have to a lot of times members are going to get tired of the game, and because they might find it that it's a grind, and they might get tired of it. So I find that's a biggest challenge. So what we do at BRG is that we help out. We have a team organized, that our diplomatic team, that puts out recruitment ads to try and help out our guilds. I'm constantly checking on Discord, especially, and I'm constantly checking people who are looking for guilds, and then I send DMs. Okay, we've got 26 guilds here. I'm sure we can find something that would work for you. So I'm constantly sending those DMs out to people who are looking for guilds. So I'd say that's the most challenging aspect, and then that's what BRG does. That's one of the ways that we do to help our community, help our guilds.
Yeah, no, I think Discord, I think it's been a really helpful application in communicating, not just with individual members, but one of the cool features that I think there is sort of the automated alerts that'll pop up. Did you design those, or was there anyone else on the team that helped brought about that?
A lot of those are bots. They call them bots, BOTS, that developers have done to help make the game a little bit easier. We all have chosen Discord because it's an easier way to communicate than just the in-game chat. because we can share screenshots, we can share videos, we can share ideas, and it's just much easier to do that in Discord. And then, of course, Discord brings with it the ideas from these bots, and they just help facilitate some of the things for the officers. They help, remind people. I use one called Hot Utilities or Hot Utils, and it messages people about their raid tickets on a daily basis, because some of our guilds require a certain number of tickets every day. And so it'll warn them that, you have an hour or an hour and a half to get your tickets in and you're not there yet. And then it records those people that don't make them, so that when decisions come, when we have to remove people, we have reasons why. We don't just arbitrarily kick someone from our guild. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So regarding this game, being that it is Star Wars themed, how do you think this game has contributed to your fandom of Star Wars? And Adam, we can start with you.
For me, I think Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes certainly brought this community dynamic to the forefront. Most of my gaming wasn't all that focused in connection with other people, with the exception of tabletop role playing, which I have done for Star Wars for many years. But that's you're interacting with a small group of another 4 or 5 gamers usually when you're sitting down for something like that. This is networking and connection to other Star Wars fans on a completely different level. It's just brought that large community dynamic to the Star Wars realm in a way that I never really had in my life before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bailey, how about yourself?
For me, when I first started playing this game, I loved and enjoyed Star Wars, but I hadn't really done too much with Star Wars outside of the original 6 movies. This game came out a couple weeks before The Force Awakens. So those two combined helped introduce me to what would become, to me, the larger world of Star Wars. When the game came out, I remember there being characters such as like Luminara, Barriss, eventually like Rex came out. Characters that I had never heard of helped me then want to get into like watching the Clone Wars and reading some of the books and comics, and just learned all of this new lore about this fantastic universe that I would have never heard of. I'd never played this game.
Do you think other mobile games, with similar gameplay features, but different themes, sort of have the same effect for you? Or do you think there's something special about Galaxy of Heroes that makes you, want to come back?
It's a mix of both. Being Star Wars is really what attracted me and then helped me like maintain wanting to play, along with the gameplay features that, frankly, Galaxy of Heroes does better than just about any other similar game I've played. And then there's just the longevity to it. I've seen a lot of similar games pop up and die very quickly within the lifespan, but because it's Star Wars, there's always a desire to want to or by developers to want to keep supporting the game, which has been wonderful for it.
Yep. Yeah. Chris is one of the early adopters. What do you think has kept you with the game as long as you have? What is it about Galaxy of Heroes that makes you want to stick with it?
Well, I'm one of the older people. I was in the back of my mom and dad's van at a drive-in the very first weekend that the first Star Wars movie came out in 1977. So I have a deep, I don't know, I guess I'm more of a fan because of that. I've been there for every movie. I've been there for every opening of every movie. And it's a great love of mine that just doesn't go away. It's something that, This game really helps me connect with other people that are of like mind, that have the same kind of love for Star Wars. I like the diversity. I think that that's another plus, another positive aspect, that you can choose to be a scoundrel, you can choose to be Imperial, you can choose to be a rebel, you can choose to be a Jedi, a Sith. We're all the same fans, and we all love Star Wars. We may love it for different reasons, but we all have that common ground, and I think that's what keeps it going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So regarding the game. Oh, I thought something popped up. So Mark, regarding the future of Galaxy of Heroes, and Adam, you can chime in as well. What do you think? Where do you see Galaxy of Heroes going, say 5 years from now?
Well, I think with everything that's being, all the announcements that have been made with regards to like Star Wars shows that are coming out and things like that. So I think that's there's always going to be a lot of content out there for Capital Games to introduce into the game, because like right now with Mandalorian, there's a lot of new things popping up from Mandalorian. Like, we've had a lot of new Mandalorian characters such as Quill and IG-11 and Beskar Mandalorian that launched this week. So there's a lot of Mandalorian stuff right now popping up into the game, and with all the announcements that have been made, with all the shows that they're coming out with, so there's always going to be plenty of and you always hear too about people saying like, why don't they have so and so in the game, or another character, because there's so many characters to choose from in the Star Wars universe. So that's not an issue. It's more so like, obviously we with the game, you got to continue, you got to change it up, you got to have some new game modes and things like that. So this week they introduced a new version of, or was it last week, I think that was last week. They took one of the raids that was in the game, and they made it a lot more challenging, that only really the top guilds are able to finish it at the moment. So it's something else to work on. So there are CG's is always coming out with new content for us to work towards. Now, as long as they can keep that up, I think this game is going to continue on and be quite successful still 5 years from now. I mean, the Star Wars fans are not going anywhere, so if they can put out the content, we'll play it. And a lot of us will pay for it. So that's what'll keep it going.
Well, you say pay for it, but how many of you have spent money playing Galaxy of Heroes? Because technically it is free to play, but there's always the incentive, buy more crystals or buy more money. Have any of you?
I've put a little bit of money, but not a whole lot personally. Honestly, over the 2.5 years, I've probably put in maybe about $100, somewhere around there. So, but I'm sure it's different for some people here.
And now is that 100 Canadian or 100?
You have to have.
I just want to make just want to make sure we factor that in, because I want to make sure.
Yes, it's 100 Canadian.
Anyone else have that number beat?
Oh, I'm sure I do.
I 100% know that I have that beat pretty well.
Really?
Depends what you mean by beat.
Well, have you spent more than $100, American or Canadian?
See, I don't see that as beat. I've spent not a single red cent on this game in the time I've played it, and I've been lucky. And I don't think that's some folks throw that around as a badge of honor, and you shouldn't spend money on the game. The people that spend money on the game are the people that are also making sure that there will be a game to play in 5 years. So I'm not besmirching that at all, but also I think it says something for CG and the way that they're developing their game, that a person can play the game for 5 years completely free to play, and I don't feel like I've missed out on anything. I have 14 tunes in the entire selection of of characters that I don't have at 7 stars yet. Like,
Mhm.
I'm just about 6 million GP, and in about a month will probably have my first Galactic Legend. So for folks that know the game, whatever, I'm right there in the thick of the end game content. And it seems like they have always developed the game in a way where you're free to spend money and you will receive an immediate benefit for it, but it just gets you ahead by a few months. It doesn't. I've seen other games where if you don't spend money, you are completely left in the dust. And
Exactly.
I think CG has found a really good balance here between encouraging people that want to spend money to receive a benefit that they are really happy with by spending, but also not driving the free-to-play market out of the game completely, so that there's enough people to fight to make it fun. There's enough population in the arenas and the guilds and all the stuff. They've done really well at not driving their community away.
No, exactly, because that does seem to be the problem that a lot of mobile games come across, is that yes, they're technically free, but sometimes they resort to predatory practices and getting users to spend money just to get further ahead. And Galaxy of Heroes does have that option, but I think you guys are right. They're not as predatory as other mobile games maybe out there. And you're right. Like, even if you don't spend money, like, you could still build up a massive team of who you want, and amass how much gear you want. Plus, I also think it's kind of a bit more rewarding, just to save up like all the crystals and then drop it on like drop it on like a character cards collection.
Mhm.
What's the most amount of crystals you guys have ever had at one time?
10 or 12,000, I think.
Really?
Yeah, if you can consistently get first in both arenas, you're getting about 800 crystals a day. So it doesn't take long.
Mm-hmm. Were you saving up for something big?
Oh, yeah. I'm always saving up for something. But I think again, I think going back to what Char said, it really speaks to the longevity of a game where someone can play for 5 years free to play, is 6 million GP, which is only 1 million GP less than me, who has maybe spent some money on the game. And, still enjoying it, and only has 14 characters that you haven't 7-starred. Come on. How many characters are in the game? I mean, that's a small percentage. So it is a lot of fun, and you can go after whatever characters you want to. I've seen kids that want to get all first order, and that's what they go for right away. Or, they go for the Imperials, or they go for the Jedi. That's what this game is all about. And with the Disney name now and the Lucasfilm name behind it, I think we'll see this game for a long, long time.
Fantastic. So Mark, with the 5-year question, do you think as more characters and more content is released, do you think you'll see an uptick in more recruits coming in?
Well, so the thing about the having more recruits is that if more people get into the game, then they're going to be on the lower end bracket, lower GP bracket kind of thing. Like, if I compare for a lot of our guilds right now, it's a bit of a challenge to get some of them the recruits, because a lot of, like, if there are a 3 million, 4 million GP players, well, a lot of them right now, it's taken them, a couple of years to get to that point. So it can be a bit of a challenge to find those guys, because to find people that are that. And I mean, our guilds are always progressing, so you're always trying to find some members that are progressing as well. So it's good to have, you always want to see new accounts, new people popping into the game, because you want to see that. It means the game is doing well, people are supporting the game, and because of course, as some people stop playing the game, then you want to ideally try to replace those people. And I think right now we've seen an uptick in like, for me in my recruiting, I'm seeing a lot of newer accounts that are looking for guilds, which is a great sign for the game. It just makes it a little bit more challenging when we're trying to fill our mid-tier guilds, especially to find recruits for them, because it takes a few years to get to that point.
Very nice. I was just checking the time. We have a couple more minutes before we have to end things. So I thought I'd ask you guys, what do you think's your favorite faction that you like to use in the game? Bailey, who do you think's your favorite sort of faction?
I like using the 501st. Rex has a ramping up ability where he starts just doing insane damage, and I really love doing territory battles, which is PvE content or raids. And then as those battles progress, you end up seeing when a raid should take. Originally took entire guilds coordinating specific teams to hit to beat it. You can see Rex taking out like 25% of boss's health in a single hit. I think that's just one of the most fun things to see in the game.
Yep. Anyone else share that sentimentality?
Well, I never farmed 501st really. That was not one of my main. When I first started the game, I went Phoenix was the best way to go at the beginning. But then Night Sisters, I kind of made a push with the Night Sisters, and that was one of my factions that really got me up there. It helped me out when we guilds were first struggling with one of the raids with the Sith raid. The Night Sisters were really handy for a couple phases. So I started farming Night Sisters, and I really enjoyed them. Kept them for my arena team for a long time, but now they've kind of fallen off the meta, unfortunately. But I still really enjoy the Night Sisters.
Very nice. Chris, I'm tempted to say First Order just because of your background, but common knowledge says that no, that's a trick. So what do you think your favorite faction is you like to use?
In the game, my favorite is Sith Empire.
Okay.
Darth Revan and Bastila and HK-47 and Malak. So that's my favorite. It's kind of fallen back now because of the Galactic Legends. But I still like to use that team.
Mm-hmm. And then Adam, last but not least.
I'm an old trilogy or an original trilogy fanatic. So for me, it's either the Rebels teams or the new Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker lead Jedi. Those are both a lot of fun, but I would also throw a shout out to folks that know the game too. Back before HK-47 got nerfed to make room for that new Darth Revan team, there was a long time early on when you could get by with droids with HK-47's lead. And I still kind of miss that.
Yeah. Most people I see, like whenever like I see them in like the arena or even some of the other game modes, they'll usually use 501st. Geonosians is also a popular one. And I can see why, just because of the hive attacks they can do. Night Sisters is also a popular one from what I've seen. So yeah, no, these are good selections. All right. Well, we have about a couple minutes left. So before we go, is there anything else that any of you would like to say before we say farewell?
I think I just noticed on chat there was a viewer question. What is your favorite tune from a YouTube viewer? I'll touch on that a little bit. It's a tough one because there's so many tunes to choose from. But like one that was really interesting when we first introduced. It's not gameplay wise, he's not my favorite, but the 3PO Chewbacca combination, that is a fun tune. I thought that was really cool the way they introduced that, and I like that particular tune for that reason. I haven't had a chance to play him much. I almost have him 7-star. Should have him 7-star later this week, so I can't wait to use him even more.
Oh, fantastic. Anything else you would all like to say before we bow out?
Thank you to the 501st for doing what they're doing for Make-A-Wish and for giving us this platform to talk about our favorite game. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And thank you very much for that reminder. We are still taking still taking donations for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So be sure to click on that button and donate whatever you can, especially during this time of season. All right. Well, thank you everyone for doing this, for taking time out of your schedule to join us for the special day. I look forward to speaking to all of you again in the near future. And you all have a most excellent holiday.
Thank you, James. You too.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
All right. Take care.
Thanks everybody for joining. We're going to move to our next panel now with it's our last panel for all of our guests. We also have another guest joining us. You may have seen him on SNL, Bobby Moynihan. So please stick around for our last panel of the day, and then we still have a final episode after that. We put together a video. So please stick around, and we'll be right back with our next panel. Thanks. All right, everybody. We're up for our last panel here of the day, and we have a very special guest with us, Bobby Moynihan. I loved watching him on SNL, amongst other things. I'm also a big fan of DuckTales, so David Tennant's Scrooge, and I am # Team Louie. Who, if anyone doesn't know, it is the green shirt. You don't probably, if you have a Louie in your bedroom, I think that's going to be fantastic.
second, but then I realized I wasn't wearing pants.
Oh, don't. None of us else are wearing pants. That's the key of this whole convention, right? So again, welcome. So David, Daniel, you're the leader of this one. If you could kick it off, and again.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much. And before we get started, I want to make sure that everybody knows how much we appreciate the work that Tim May has been doing. For those of you who are not aware, and Tim has been sitting right where you see him for the last about 11 hours, making sure that this goes out to everybody. So we really appreciate that. And as we enter this last panel, again, please remember we are raising money for Make-A-Wish. We topped our first goal, and we are well on our way to hitting our second. So during this last hour, please make sure that you dig deep and give something. You know, your contribution is really important. So when we talked about how we wanted to close out InfernoCon, the holiday special, one of the things that got talked about was, we'd like to do something, for the squad, for the garrison. And I'm really pleased to say that I think we're going to be able to do that. We have in this group today, Mr. Albin Johnson, the founder of the 501st. And we are joined by one of our newest members, just like Mr. Johnson. We have Dominic here from the Mandalorian and Gecko the Bounty Hunter. And we are joined by Bobby here, who is going to regale us all with his Star Wars knowledge and wit and humor. So those are our guests. We have David Perdue, a member of Inferno Squad, and Solomon and James Beveridge, who you've been seeing a lot of all day because he's also been going most of the day. So thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Well, we're gonna jump right in, and James, I think that you had some questions that you wanted to ask Bobby. So I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you lead it off.
Absolutely.
All, James Beveridge is a fantastic name.
Oh, thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. I get to put that on my bucket list. When my family asked me, "So, James, what happened to you over the holidays?" Oh, I had Bobby Moynihan say my name was awesome.
It's a fantastic name.
That's what TJ Ramini said as well. So, well, first of all, huge honor to meet you. Like Tim said, big DuckTales fan. Also love what you do on We Bear Bears. Love that
thanks
show.
so much. That's the best.
Yeah. I wanted to go back a little bit to SNL, specifically the Matt the Radar Technician sketch. So like a lot of us here, what we do, a big part of what we do is, we dress up in armor, and we walk around and entertain folks. You got strapped up in armor as well. I was just wondering, what was that experience like, and how comfortable or uncomfortable was it?
It was great. I mean, there was a weird period. I'm going to be looking down because I'm looking for pictures to bring up. I'm not like texting people. I'm looking for pictures to show you. It was like a sweet period. I think it was the 40th season. It was like the first episode of the first episode of that season. Chris Pratt hosted, and me, Mikey Day, and Taryn Killam. Taryn was a cast member at the time, and Mikey Day was a writer. I went to them with this idea. I said, I got this idea. I had just seen Guardians of the Galaxy, and I had an idea of Guardians of the Galaxy, where did this come from? Marvel just can't seem to fail right now. And we just started joking around about it. And then we just started saying Marvel could make any movie they wanted right now, and it would be a success. So we made that sketch with Chris Pratt where it was I think it was it wasn't called Guardians of the Galaxy. It was called the Defenders of the Universe by Marvel. And it was just a basketball player, a sign spinner. Like, it was just nonsense. And then there was like Marvel's bus people, people who were on the bus together. And I think Fancy Ghosts was one of them. But then the very last one was Marvel Star Wars, and I 1000% just added that in because I wanted to dress like Boba Fett, and and also I had recently quit smoking and built an R2D2, but I don't know how to do I just got a kit off eBay, so I didn't know how to do like any of the lights or anything. So I was like, if I write an SNL sketch and put it in it, then like I'll bring it to work and they'll just motorize it and put lights in it. And I'll just essentially, I can say this now. I was like, I just used NBC's money to build me an R2D2. So that's kind of how it started. And then once that like did well, people like that. It was like, hey, maybe Lauren was like, maybe some more of that Star Wars stuff. And so we got lucky. We got to do a couple. I think like Force Awakens was the next one maybe that we did, where I think it was James Franco. And like it was, the whole joke was it was the Force Awakens trailer, but they were all a little older. Like I was Leia. James Franco was a very old Luke with a lightsaber walker. And I remember that was like one of the worst nights of my life at SNL, because when it aired, it still had green screen in it, and like I started crying. Like I started bawling because like it aired unfinished. And of course they fixed it 20 minutes later and no one cared but me. But I was a mess. And then I think was Matt the Radar Technician next. When Adam Driver hosted, it was just like he was coming, and I was in the monologue dressed as Kylo Ren with him, and like we got to do. I think I pitched a sketch to Taryn and Mikey, and we wrote it, but it did not get picked. Kylo Ren. Adam Driver was like, I don't think this is a great idea. But my pitch was, just because I wanted to wear stormtrooper costumes, was that me and Taryn were stormtroopers, and we were mopping up a hallway, and we were like, well, we're almost done. And it's like, yep, we're almost done for the day. And it was like, we got to go gas up a couple TIE fighters. And you just started hearing whistling, and we were like, what is that? And we looked up, and it was just a body fell, and the whole joke was that it was Han Solo. And Han Solo just hit the ground and exploded, and we were like, we just cleaned this. And we were so mad. And like that was the joke. And Adam Driver very, very nicely was like, I think people are going to be angry with me anyway for killing Han Solo, so maybe let's not bring it up again. So thank God we did not do that one. But we Mikey Day had come up with Matt the Radar Technician, and we just started pitching ideas on that. And I said, I want to be a stormtrooper and get thrown through a soda machine.
Well, I think that's why we all joined the 501st. So
yeah, it's a really fun and empowering thing to throw that armor on.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question for all of you here. And so it's going to be a little different answer for everybody, but I'm wondering, what is the weirdest, most bizarre thing that's happened to you on a job? Whether that's acting or at a convention. What's the most bizarre thing that you've run into?
Well,
so, Alvin, why don't? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Sorry. Go on. Sorry.
Oh no, absolutely. Bobby, why don't you go first?
I didn't realize you were asking someone else. I thought I was still on the floor. No, I was just gonna say it's for me. It was Star Wars Celebration was coming up the escalator and going like, oh, I'm in Star Wars Resistance. This is something I would have come to anyway, so I can't believe I'm coming here as work. And they're like, when I got there, they were like, just go up this escalator and go through this door. And I was going up the escalator thinking like, you know what, this is going to be a fun weekend. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Like I get to treat myself. And they opened the door and it was Billy D. Williams, Peter Mayhew. It was just the entire cast of Star Wars from start to finish, from 70s till now, including Hayden Christensen and Greg Grunberg and and it was just like my mind exploded. My brain imploded.
That
awesome.
Yeah, that does sound pretty crazy. All right, Dominic, can you top that?
You mean just weirdest in general, not Star Wars related?
Nope, it can be. Take your pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Bobby can relate. I mean, just in regards to they have something called method actors, you know, and everyone has their story in terms of people, the way that they prep. I was on set with Mickey Rourke, and I mean, without going into detail, it's just sometimes the preparation. I mean, it was that old classic story of Dustin Hoffman, you know, preparing by spending a night in jail. And I think Sir Laurence Olivier said, why don't you just act? But some of the actors don't. They like to prepare in certain ways before the camera goes on. And just the experience with Mickey Rourke there was really chewing the scenery there for quite some time in a church in the Bronx. I'll never forget. But that was probably the strangest. And I'm sure Bobby's been around it more than I have in regards to some of the preparation for some performers, where it's like it's almost a little intrusive and disrespectful to other actors, to where it's like, you know, just do the work, you know.
I get it. I respect it. Sometimes it's a little weird.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, Albin, you spend a lot of time around, you know, a lot of different fans. You know, you go to these conventions, and you're a big part of that. What's the weirdest thing that you've run into?
Okay, so I've been thinking about this the moment you asked that, and you asking again made me think of another weird story outside of conventions. So we'll go to conventions, and I think it was 2005 when we had just started. The 501st was finally starting to get pretty big, and I was rolling the suitcase around, inducting these legends. These, you know, like Mr. Monahan's saying, your head's exploding. And just the nicest people. And at one point, you know, Lucasfilm trusted us, not in name, but sort of de facto as security. Anytime they needed help, they were understaffed, and we'd put our helmets on, and one stormtrooper equaled like 20 security guards, because people would listen to a stormtrooper. And at some point, I don't know how this happened. A guy named Evan Reynolds and I were backstage, and they needed to get Carrie Fisher from point A to point B without running into this press corps of some kind. And Evan and I were dressed in our TKs, and they go, guys, helmets on. Miss Fisher needs to, you know, get across that hallway. And she comes. Our helmets are on. We're looking at each other like, are we stormtroopers actually protecting Princess Leia? And we made it from one end of the hallway to the other with all the reporters and everything, and moving her to the other side. That was the most surreal moment of being in the armor. Outside of a convention was the time that I got hit by a car on the interstate, and we pulled over and we were exchanging information. And the lady, you know, no sign that she was anything Star Wars, looked at my license and went, "Oh my God, are you Alvin Johnson of the 501st? Can I get your autograph?" What? And after a collision. So yeah, that was weird. There you go. 2 for 1.
You know, I got to say, when I think subtlety, I don't really think stormtroopers, but maybe that's just me. David, I think that you had a couple questions that you were gearing up for too.
Absolutely. So, and I'll ask this question to Dominic first. Now, I'm not saying that this had occurred, but let's just say a souvenir, maybe a prop, a piece of costume, or whatever, were to appear in your closet. What would that item be, and from what?
Oh, you mean as far as from Mandalorian, or from just any project in general?
As far as any project, any souvenir from any project.
Oh, damn it. You know, I hate to be vanilla, but, you know, unfortunately, a lot of times the studio rules, it's just it's just one of those things. I mean, if you're A team, it's different, to where, you know, sometimes you have it written in your contract with wardrobe, with props, etc. But unfortunately, you know, we just have really strict rules that we can't keep anything. The great thing is, thank you to the 501st. I mean, everything from my blaster to my gauntlets, to my breathing mask, everything was recreated So I was able to have those props, tracking fobs, Beskar, you name it. You guys have been amazing, not to mention the entire fan base. But unfortunately, some of these casting agencies, you're one and done if you take anything home. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I was holding a tracking fob when we were there at the bar, episode 1 and also 3. And no question, you want to throw it in your pocket, but also at the same time, unfortunately, it's the big leagues and you won't be invited back unless, they give it to you as a gift,
Understand.
Yeah.
Understand.
I think he was giving you an out though on that one. Maybe if they had gifted it to you.
Oh, if they had. Oh, I mean, without question, the blaster. I picked the biggest one. I mean, I hope that every 501st member and every actor has that privilege to choose their own blaster within the Star Wars universe, or their own lightsaber or Sith weapon. But yeah, I mean, the work that Legacy Effects does, not only with the prosthetics, but also with the weapons as well, is absolutely amazing. But I would have loved to have kept my original weapon there. And who knows, maybe one day I can there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That's a great answer. And I'm going to move right to Solomon. Solomon, you look like you have a question all queued up.
I sure do. This question's for Bobby. I just had a quick question. I don't know how familiar you are with the 501st, how we create our costumes and what we do to actually look up and do reference. We've got CRLs. We do costume reference libraries. And then when Matt the Radar Tech came on online for Saturday Night Live, almost immediately there was a CRL that came out. I'm sure that people have been following that. But did you have any knowledge that the Matt the Radar Tech would actually be as big of a hit as he is?
No clue. I mean, it almost didn't get on because Lorne Michaels is not a big Star Wars guy. I mean, close friends with George Lucas, but I was like, I played Carrie, I played Leia, and he was like, Carrie's a friend. And I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, he knows these people. And he was the best man at her wedding, I think, to Paul Simon. I think in particular when we did Matt the Radar Technician, it was I think we weren't sure if it was going to get on, but Adam Driver he got it. He completely got it, and he was so good about it. And we were shooting super, super late, and they were like, we got to get him out of here. And he was like, no, I'm staying. He's like, I really want to get this right. And he was just so cool. That whole experience was absolutely fantastic. But I remember when they were dressing him, it was they came to me, and I remember Taryn, they were like, what do we do for this thing here? And I was like, get a pack of gum, Sucrets or something, or something. I think I asked him to get I think it was just a pack of chiclets or something he had Taryn had. But I was like, we have to make sure, because especially if we're mentioning the 501st, they're gonna look. And I remember thinking with Matt the Radar Technician, I think the only thing we said to them was make it something that people could easily buy in a store, because we wanted, we were is there a world where someday we would see somebody dressed as Matt? Cut to the Comic-Con right after that, I turn a corner and there's just 20 Matts. and I was my brain almost exploded. And I went over and I asked them for a picture, and no one I was like, I was in that sketch. No one recognized me. They all took a picture and they were like, thank you very much. Goodbye. And and it was fascinating. But yeah, I mean, that was I remember also the Kylo Ren outfit that he wears in that sketch Lucasfilm sent to us. It was his real Kylo Ren outfit, and having him just walk around in it, I was like, that's him. When you were saying stuff that we got to keep, I have the R2-D2 from that sketch.
Oh wow,
yeah!
That
Nice.
Awesome.
This never aired, but I will show you for 501st reasons, and this is going to come back and bite me. These two parts got cut but this was me as Slave Leia. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And this was Yoda.
Oh wow,
that's awesome. Now that I showed
Very
every
nice.
picture in my, yeah.
That's awesome.
I think those two parts got cut. We had like a lot of deep cuts. I got to be Darth Vader.
Wow. Check it out.
Yeah, it was like a season of like, let's have amazing costume play. Not that this was part of it. Oh, wait, now I'm trying to find all of them. This is one of my favorite pictures of me of all time.
Oh yeah.
And that R2D2 is downstairs. I have Kylo Ren's helmet from Matt. He signed it. Your good friend Matt, the radar technician. I got to keep a lot of cool stuff. Keep and steal a lot of good stuff from
Yeah.
All right, so who wants to show us their pictures of them as Slave Leia next?
Anybody else? Albin, no?
See, I would if I had any, but
All right, Albin.
All right, so I have a question, and I'm gonna start with Bobby because I want to see if he takes the bait. So my question is are you any good in the kitchen? Like, do you cook well, or do you kind of rely on the kindness of strangers? We're gonna start with you, Bobby.
Well, now I feel like this is a trap of some kind. But I like to cook. I don't know if I'm the best cook. I made some brownies today with my daughter. But yes, I do enjoy to cook. I make a nice stuffed chicken every once in a while.
Now, did I see correctly that you were on an episode of Beat Bobby Flay?
Correct.
I gotta ask, what was it like being on a professional cooking competition?
It's fascinating because it's a television show. I'll never get asked back, but I'll tell you the inside scoop on Bobby Flay. No, Bobby was like super nice guy. He was around SNL a lot. Like he would cook for us sometimes, and we had a nice relationship. And he was a nice guy, and he asked me to do the show, and I went, and it was like 9 a.m. and they shot some parts of it out of order. So like, you're going like, wow, this is delicious, but they haven't made food yet. And but some of it was good. It was very interesting. It's a TV show, and the competition part of it seemed very like, I think this guy, he knows he's going to win. But it was interesting. It was fun and delicious food.
Dominic, how about you? Do you do well in the kitchen?
I feed into the Italian stereotype, and apologies to all the millennials, but married into a great Italian family. My mother-in-law, my wife is absolutely amazing, not to mention survival jobs with the restaurant for so many years, years prior where, you're able to bring home the food. So unfortunately, no. But my grandmother did make one amazing dish. It was a chicken and mushrooms where she would sort of simmer the mozzarella on top to where it kind of had that little burnt crisp. With a little bit of white wine and garlic and olive oil. And that was always the signature family dish there in Yonkers, New York, Ossining, New York there.
Well, now I'm hungry.
Oh,
Albin, how about you? Do you go and tear up the kitchen in a good way or a bad way?
In the last 2 years, I made a contract with my kids and started a book called Dad's a Bad Cookbook. And I've slowly... to answer a previous question, my greatest souvenir I've ever collected was my wife, who was a member of the New York Empire City Garrison. So I drove up to New York many times, trooped one time in Manhattan, and met my wife, who was in Stormtrooper armor and 6-inch go-go boots, and stole her back to the South. And as a Cuban, she taught me a lot about cooking. So, I would say I'm better than I was. I'm just above being able to embarrass myself. So very happy about that.
That's a worthy place to be. So I'm gonna depart from the script here for a moment, and I see that Albin has been sitting there unable to contain his glee. I'm gonna let him ask a question here.
Wow! Oh man, is it that obvious? Wow! Look, I'm just a fan of fans. To answer the question earlier about the people that were invited onto the set to be stormtroopers from the 501st Legion, I'm their biggest fan. So a lot of people say, well, how'd you feel about that? I'm bursting with excitement that the more Star Wars celebrities I meet, like Mr. Moynihan, Mr. Price, that they grew up with Star Wars, that they're just as big, if not bigger fans than I am. And that's a real kinship. So I would like to. What's that?
Did you get to go? Were you there?
I wasn't. And the gentleman said to me, he goes, I think his name is Tate Fletcher. Is that right, Dominic? The guy was
yes,
on?
yeah, Tate, the big gunner, yeah.
Yeah, so we talked while I was in LA 3 times last holiday, so my wife almost killed me. The sitting in an IHOP's talking to Tate and this other gentleman, they said, okay, don't worry, we'll call you out for season 2, and then COVID happened. So who knows, maybe season 3. I got the armor ready.
At the ready. Did you
exactly
when I got to go to the Comic-Con panel for Force Awakens, when at the end everyone had the badge under their seat and all the troopers came in and we all walked to the band shell.
Wow.
Were any of you guys there for that? It was like when Force Awakens came out, all of a sudden all these troopers came out. I didn't know if it was 501st, and then they all everyone came and went down the street to the band shell and played.
Actually, I'm very excited to say that 4 of those members are from the original Chicago area, and you're talking about the Chicago celebration, and they have a side-by-side photo of when we first started back in like 2002, and that year 2019, and 17 years had passed, and all 4 of those guys are still in their armor, looking good. And so yeah, that was us. That was not me, but our guys. All right, so I'm going to ask Dominic and Mr. Moynihan here, what is your favorite memory from Star Wars, especially around the kid age? I'm just whichever one of you wants to go first. I'm fascinated. You're fans like us, and we're fans of you, but on this level, we can at least relate.
It may sound corny, but just there was the magic of believing in Santa when I was 8, 9 years old, being at my grandparents' house off Central Avenue there in 1983. My mom, she didn't have much money, single mom, and she got me every single Return of the Jedi character, from Weequay to Squidman to Reese. And, it's funny because I see my kids now, and unfortunately, all the kids now fall into that trap of, being on the phone or the iPad or what have you. I would just spend hours with that Jabba's Palace at 9 or 10 years old there in 1983. Not to mention right down the street to hear the first applause inside a theater when Luke saved the day on the skiff within that same year. It was just such a magical time. But waking up Christmas morning and opening up all those figures from 83 was absolutely priceless.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's the Kenner figures. That's what it started with me. Like I remember there was a store called Woolworth. I don't know if people remember that. And I remember like going to Woolworth and those the black packaging and just being like, and also weirdly enough, even at that age, buying 2 because I loved the package and like I wouldn't open it for a while or like like. I kind of made fun. I wrote a sketch making fun of that, which is
it's so good, Bobby.
I saw it.
Yeah. that case in the back at the end of the sketch, they were like, we can't go out and buy a bunch of original Star Wars stuff like for the set. So we're just gonna like print up photocopies and put it in there. And I was like, just come to my house. And they came to my house and got all my stuff and brought it there and then brought it home later. But like, yeah, for me it was that. It was like the Kenner figures as a kid and just getting lost in that. And I have a very, very big memory of like just never turning it off the Battles of Endor Ewok movies. Just like that was like I was super into Hardware Wars. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Hardware Wars?
That
It
was
like
great.
it was like a parody movie that somebody made where it was
Ham
like
salad.
ham salad, and it was like these
Yeah.
like very childish kind of Mad Magazine jokes, and like the Millennium Falcon was just an iron.
Yeah.
And like, it was like I think Ryan Johnson actually references it in Last Jedi. But like yeah, I was just like super into that world and R2D2 and C3PO, and just like I think when I found I was like, there's a guy in there. Like I couldn't figure it out. Do you guys know Gordon Tarpley? Is he 501st as well? I don't know if he's 501st as well. I met him at Comic Con. Guy dresses up as C3PO. He's phenomenal. He does it so well.
Yeah,
Well,
good guy.
I think that we have time for just one more. So, James, I'm gonna let you ask one of yours.
Oh man. So I'm actually curious about Bobby. What was your foray like into? Because now you're part of the VR world with the Tales from Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've already cemented yourself as an official character in Star Wars Resistance, but now you get to add another notch under the belt. In the VR world. What was that process like? In getting that sort of project made.
It was amazing. Star Wars Resistance Orca was like the first thing, and then like I play a Godel character named Yanni, like in a couple episodes that like I'm just doing an impression of Jim Brewer as Goat Boy. And I got to be a stormtrooper. I'm stormtrooper number 3 in like a couple episodes of Star Wars Resistance, and they actually made it canon. There's an episode of Star Wars Resistance where the two main characters, Kaz and Nico, have to sneak in, and they go in as spies, and they have Matt the radar technician outfits. And it was like the first time they used like the Matt the and I didn't know. They surprised me with it. And when I saw the episode, I was like, "What?" And then they were like, "Yeah, by the way." And then they brought me and Taryn in. So when they're running by, me and Taryn Killam are the voice of the stormtroopers. So technically, Matt is a little bit canon.
That's awesome.
But that can you? Sorry, tell me the question again because I got off into my Matt world.
I was just asking what it was like, because there's different aspects, like film is one thing, animation's another, but to go into VR, what was that process like?
I mean, it was the coolest thing in the world, and then a slight bummer because like I got to fly out I went to Lucasfilm, the ranch. I went to Skywalker Ranch and met with them, and they kind of just they kind of showed me the whole deal and the idea, and they said our idea is this. You're going to be a bartender. His name is Cecil Slack, which is it's a reference to Mo Cieslak on The Simpsons, the bartender. But they were like, you're going to play this bartender, and we kind of don't, we kind of want to make him up with you. And they were like, we like the idea, he's going to guide you through the stories. And I was like, well, this is me. I was like, I was a bartender for 20 years. I love Star Wars, and all I did was tell stories. And that's kind of what it became, was just like, I play this, six-eyed guy who's like, hey, you see the Millennium Falcon over there? Like, and tells stories of kind of, I'm myself in the Star Wars universe, but I have 6 eyes and one of them doesn't work. But when they told me about it, I was like, this is the coolest. I can't believe I get to play in this universe again. And then they told me I was going to get to do motion capture, and I was like, are you kidding? Like, as a physical comedian, like I couldn't wait. And then this, the pandemic happened. So that kind of stalled, but I don't know if you can see it, but my closet back there has now become a recording studio, and I was back there, and we did the entire video game in that closet, and with facial capture. I had set up like lights and stuff, and I had to my beard was much longer, so I put rubber bands in my beard so they could see, because I couldn't shave, and I did facial capture like in the closet for months.
Wow.
And got to do a bunch of stuff. And Jose Perez and all those guys at ILM X Lab did a fantastic job. A lot of it was like cool stuff, like in the game, it's like a free form game. So if you just hang out in the bar for a little bit, he'll just kind of start talking. So I just got to like improvise a bunch of Star Wars stuff. Like I definitely shoehorned in a couple Orca and Flicks references and some Matt the Radar Technician. I know, but like just like and just kind of like would just. I got to do what I love to do, which is make up silly Star Wars jokes, and a lot of them made it into the game. And I play it now, and I walk into my cantina, and I'm hearing and I'm like, this is as a fan, it's the craziest thing. In the world. But yeah, that was super fun, and hopefully there'll be more stuff coming soon.
Ooh, looking forward to it.
I think we all hope that. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. Before I let you go, I have one final thing I'd like to do. Bobby, we have all felt like your contribution to the Star Wars universe has been, pretty important, and you got a channel full of fans here. We would like to make you an honorary member of Inferno Squad. We are part of Garrison Tyrannus, so we're the Virginia group, and we're the Northern Virginia part of the Garrison Tyrannus Virginia group. So in the frame you'll see the Garrison photo, our squad patch, and then our InfernoCon patch, and we'll make sure you get this. But everybody felt like we couldn't close without doing that for you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. One of my favorite things about the Star Wars universe is just inclusion and being a part of it, and how much it has changed so many people's lives, and how it's all about the community and the people, and just at a core, it's about family and love, and that's it's not lost on me in any way, shape, or form. So it's an honor. Thank you. This is what you guys do is really amazing. It makes a lot of people really happy. Alvin, for everything.
We are so very happy that we have 3 honorary members, new honorary members with us right now. And I just want to make sure you guys know, you guys, new members, bring the donuts to the meeting. So that we've been making a lot today. This is why we're going to have donuts for a month. Well, thank you guys.
Death Star shaped donut holes.
That's a good thing. They're all Death Star shaped, so you can bring any kind you want. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. And again, as we enter this very last part of the holiday special, please make sure to donate to Make-A-Wish. This is the last chance. We are going to go to our final video here, which is a project that was put together with love and mostly clean language by those of us who were editing it. It was a project that kind of came together over a course of weeks, and we're proud of it. We hope that it exemplifies the spirit that we've tried to show here of InfernoCon, and actually everyone that's in here, Dave and Solomon, James, they're all part of this. So we hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've been watching, we hope you have a great set of holidays, and stay safe, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys again here real soon. Thanks very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Tim now.
Thanks for that, Dan. All right. So now, everybody, we're going to transition to, we have a couple of holiday greetings that I've kind of skipped because we've run a little close to some of our other panels. So I do want to get those played. We'll have a longer video on our YouTube channel so that if you want to watch all the holiday greetings from the entire garrison in one fell swoop, you can, as well as the... No, your guys are good. Sorry.
Thank you guys so much for doing this.
As well as we're also going to have a longer video here that Dan was just talking about, that we've put together to show our appreciation, and we got to put our kits on. So that isn't that the best thing of all? So enjoy those. So first, I'm going to give you the first of the Garrison greetings, and then the second Garrison greeting, and then we'll go right into the final movie. So again, thanks everybody for watching. I'll still probably be in the corner or not, and please donate to Make-A-Wish. We do really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Director of Galactic Intelligence, we wish you a warm and happy holidays on behalf of Garrison Tyrannus, and have a welcome and wonderful new year.
This is Kylo Ren, DS72147 of Inferno Squad of Garrison Tyrannus. I am here to wish everyone a happy holiday and a great new year.
71576 with Garrison Tyrannus. And I want to wish you a merry, I'll tell you what, whatever you have, I hope it's a merry, a happy, a joyous, festive, or otherwise good one. On behalf of all of us here at the 501st.
Hello everyone, my name is Solomon Odom, TK77797 of Garrison Tyrannus. I'm here in Purcell, Virginia, and I would like to wish every one of you a Merry Christmas.
Jesse Brown, and I'm from Northern Virginia. I'm part of the Galactic Academy and wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas. One of my favorite Christmas memories is going to M4 on Christmas Eve after church with my family. We eat a late dinner and spend time talking about past Christmases. I hope this year you are able to spend time with family as well. Merry Christmas and enjoy InfernoCon.
Hi, my name is Luke. I'm Leia. Happy holidays! Bye!
I'm ID 71576.
And I'm CID 5076.
And on behalf of Garrison Tyrannus and from our family to yours, have a happy holidays.
I don't like the look of this.
Greetings from the Directorate of Galactic Intelligence. We wish you a warm and happy holidays on behalf of Garrison Tyrannus and have a welcome and wonderful new year.
Hello. This is Kylo Ren, DS72147 of Inferno Squad of Garrison Tyrannus. I am here to wish everyone a happy holiday and a great new year.
71576 with Garrison Tyrannus. And I want to wish you a merry, I'll tell you what, whatever you have, I hope it's a merry, a happy, a joyous, festive, or otherwise good one. On behalf of all of us here at the 501st.
Hello everyone, my name is Solomon Odom, TK77797 of Garrison Tyrannus. I'm here in Purcell, Virginia, and I would like to wish every one of you a Merry Christmas.
Hi, and happy holidays. I'm IS-10258 from Winchester, Virginia. My squad mates just got me a wonderful book, How Not to Get Eaten by Ewoks. Happy holidays.
This is ID 36849.
And ID 78808 of Inferno Squad, Garrison Tyrannus. Happy holidays from Mustafar,
Virginia.
Merry Sithmas from TK 78808 of Garrison Tyrannus.
This is TS0729. Happy holidays from Garrison Tyrannus.
Greetings, citizens. This is Shore Trooper Captain 41814. On behalf of Garrison Tyrannus and Director Krennic, happy holidays.
Well, it's not mud, but it'll have to do. This is Mud Trooper 41814. I hope you all have an awesome holiday and a happy new year.
This is a story you've never heard before. It will never be in the official records. And in the great scheme of things, it's an insignificant event that didn't cause the rise of an empire or even the fall of a tyrant. A small blip in a galaxy-wide conflict that ended on the other side of the ring in the most unlikely ways. This story doesn't have any heroes, no names that anyone will recognize, and no places that will be remembered after you. But once you hear it, you'll understand why this is a genuine. It was cold. It was always cold on this rocky planet. It had a name once upon a time, but now it was just called Sector 5. On the map, it showed up as an insignificant part of the Western Front of the war. But that only mattered to fleet admirals and commanders that pushed buttons and moved ships and divisions around, without actually needing to do anything as so much as stand up. The population, they cared even less. They left long ago for any other place. And the only reason the fighting continued was the importance that this place had as a fueling station for long-range transport ships carrying war materials from one side of the galaxy to the other. Both sides were exhausted from the endless fighting. The war had a reason, had a purpose, but these were the lofty goals and vague desire expressed to bring all people together under the imperial flag. But all that meant was the troops actually fighting the war was that the phrase victory or death seemed to have taken on a meaning that emphasized the latter over the former. Our story is about a squad taking part in this grand campaign. Part of the 26th Brigade of the 18th Division, and having been created out of recruits from the same core world, they called themselves the Firestorm Squad. Partly because of the commander's optimistic hope that they would take inspiration from the name. In reality, the name stuck because it reminded the troops that there was a thing such as warmth. While the squad was made up of pilots, soldiers, and support crew, all were equally tired, all were equally cold, and all of them missed their home planet and their traditions.
We never knew what kind of mission the day would bring. One day we would fly escort missions, bringing supply ships down from a visiting fleet freighter. And the next day we'd be tasked with mapping out someplace that had gotten plastered by the fighting and had the landscape changed. Most of the time it was boring, repetitive flying, but every so often the squad would find itself in another mess, and we'd be asked to fly cover for them. It was an ugly business. There was never anything glorious about it. Just hoping you wouldn't get blasted and come down in the mud and muck.
The Stormtrooper Corps of the squad had taken the worst beating. Between being forced to live in the field for days and having to put up with not only the harsh elements, but pot shots as well as the occasional raid, the troopers that started out as a proud group of recruits, spit-shined and organized, was now a group that sported armor that looked like they'd found it in a garbage disposal, and faces that were haggard and unkempt.
Thinking of home was something you didn't want to do. It was just too hard. Back at the village, when the year turned cold, we knew that it was time to rest from all the work we did in the fields and celebrate the holiday. The whole village would come together and we'd do the typical fare of playing games and singing songs. We would give each other gifts and look forward to what the next year would bring, surrounded by our family and friends. It was a time to be together. You didn't want to think about that. You didn't want to think about that here.
We all joined the Imperial military together. It was a proud moment when we all stood together and took the oath. It felt right, like we were defending our homes and families. We had no idea we'd be sent so far away for so long. I'd hoped I'd serve on a Star Destroyer with the others in my squad, but they sent us here to Sector 5. And now I'm doing double shifts trying to keep our command post operational and the rest of our squad supplied. It hasn't been going well.
Normally, being assigned to armor carried some glamour with it. By the time I finished my basic infantry training, I knew that I wanted to be at the controls of one of the Empire's big war machines. Growing up, one of the best parts of the year was harvest time, when I got to drive our big collector. As it rumbled over the furrows, I imagined that it was a pulse tank, or even an AT-AT, the pinnacle of Imperial might. When I was accepted in the armor training program, I thought that when I finally deployed with my squad, I would experience the same thrill that I felt as a boy. By the stars, was I wrong.
When the Firestorm Squad arrived at Sector 5, their situation had quickly gone from bad to worse. The bulk of their naval detachment had been called away, needed to press the war against the rebellion elsewhere. What was once a proud brigade was reduced to one squad, made up of infantry, command and support staff, and a few pilots flying increasingly unreliable, old model type
When we landed, we had plans for a grand campaign that would end the fighting by the end of the year. After weeks of trading ground with the rebels, though, we ended up digging in and hoping we could hang on. It was one thing when we had supplies coming in, but now we just send out the occasional patrol and try to secure the gains we've made. The orders that we get don't make any sense. It's like command doesn't understand that what we look like on the data pad doesn't reflect the situation we have here. We can't win and we can't leave.
Flying over Sector 5, it was easy to see just how dug in each side was. Fortified positions dotted the landscape. Although there was little in the way of combat, occasionally you'd see the sparkle of a blaster bolt fired at some poor soul who had unwittingly exposed themselves. Most of our job on patrol was to keep an eye on things below. Make sure the X-Wings on the other side weren't getting too bold. Boring, with sudden moments of sheer terror, is the best way that I can describe those patrols.
We could hear the fighters scream across the sky, making that weird howl of theirs. Most of the time, you kept your head down, but every now and then an X-Wing or two would show up when our pilots were over the lines, and when that happened, the rules for us on the ground changed. Without even thinking about it, both the rebels and us would stop worrying so much about shooting each other and instead cheer for our pilots. They were thrilling displays of light and noise, and the most satisfying outcome for both sides was when the pilots had to break off and return to base without someone being shot down. No one liked to think too much about what happened to a pilot who crashed on the surface, but I don't think I've ever cheered that loudly for anything else when the ships were twisting around in the sky.
There wasn't really any honor in what I did. The rebels didn't really have much to match the Walker in the beginning, and it was almost an unpleasant surprise to see how easily the big machine crushed any infantry unfortunate enough to be in its path. I'd trained to fight, and I guess I always thought it would be a fair fight.
Weeks had turned into months, and the situation, despite the wishes of higher command, was a stalemate. Neither side had the strength to break the other, and neither side was willing to concede the ground. So Firestorm Squad remained tightly locked in a fight they couldn't win, and hope of ever getting home seemed further and further away.
We'd been deployed for, 8 or 9 cycles, and had begun realizing that we weren't going to be home for the holidays. We all missed our families, although it was almost an unwritten rule that you didn't talk about it. Most of us had never been off our homeworld before this, much less known anything about the devastation that war brought to a place. Missing our holiday traditions almost seemed trivial, but we did what we could. A decoration on the wall of the command post or a little sprig of something alive tucked into a trooper's armor served as a reminder that there was another place where people didn't have to walk around crouched over and where the sky was lit up with fireworks, not laser bolts.
We tried our best to keep up traditions where we could. Most of us still wore our people's sign around our necks, despite the Empire's disdain for such things. And little gestures like pressing our palms in greeting or humming a song were quietly observed. Our officers looked the other way most of the time, and I think they were as homesick and tired of the fighting as we all were.
Order, uniformity, obedience. That's what was drilled into us at the academy. It was our job to keep the troops in our squad motivated and fighting. The longer that we were deployed, however, the harder it got. We wanted to get home as badly as anyone else, and between ourselves, we were just as angry as the squad was that we'd seemingly been forgotten in this place.
As the time for the winter celebration approached, the members of Firestorm Squad hunkered down and hoped they'd made it through until the fleet returned. There was almost no thought for comfort or home. But every now and then, some little oddity would take place. There was just enough to keep a flame of hope alive that this would end someday.
Over in my section, we found a tree that had been cut down by the shelling, but had somehow survived intact. Someone said it kind of looked like a tree we had back home, which got us all to thinking about the celebrations we were missing. So we hoisted the tree over our bunker one night when it was quiet. There were some rebels that took a few pot shots at it, but remarkably, it stayed intact, looking out of place in the landscape covered by duracrete and mud.
Discipline was lax on the front lines. We'd heard that some outposts had foolishly put up decorations that reminded them of home, and officially we tried to stop it whenever we could. But there's only so much you can tell soldiers who are less afraid of punishment than they are of what's directly in front of them. We even got some reports that singing was heard from the rebel lines, but that seemed too far-fetched even for this place.
Now we come to the part of the story that's so remarkable. In a place with so much misery, on the eve of what should be a day of celebration, all that the squad had to look forward to was more of the same dreary survival. But what could possibly happen in this place so far from home, so far from family? It would be worth telling.
I think it started that evening. It was a quiet night, and even the sharpshooters seemed uninterested in looking for fresh targets. In the command post, we received the usual all clear and quiet calls from the various outposts, and we settled in for another long night. Our food preparation staff was trying to pull something special together for the meal that would be served to the squad in the morning. But given how low on supplies we were, it seemed like the holiday would pass without much in the way of recognition. That all changed when we started hearing transmissions from the pilots who were flying the last patrol of the day.
It was the oddest thing that I saw in that patrol. All throughout the rebel lines, we saw little twinkling lights. It almost looked like I'd imagined our village did back home, with the dark, cold night being softly lit by the promise of family and celebration. But it seemed foreign and out of place in Sector 5. We transmitted what we saw, knowing that the morning would bring a new round of flights designed to discover the purpose of this new development.
I had just finished the paperwork for the evening and stepped out of our command post on the line. It was clear and calm, and unlike some nights, both sides seemed content to let the other rest. As I stood, I thought that I heard the faint sound of singing in the distance, as if it was coming from the enemy's lines. I started walking up to our forward positions to see if I could determine what the source of the sound was.
Yes, we could hear the rebels singing, and it sounded so much like one of our holiday songs that we decided to serenade them back. No sooner had we finished our song than the rebels came back with their musical reply, and so it went back and forth. The officers just watched, not wanting to interfere on the night that at home would be Holidays Eve, and for just a few minutes everyone felt a little bit normal again.
Two sides locked in mortal combat, surrounded by misery in a place so far from home that the light from their star wasn't even a speck in the sky. Singing to each other. That is truly remarkable. But the last part of this story is what will convince you that it was a tale worth telling.
So when we woke up in the morning, the front was all quiet. There was a mist, enough that you couldn't see the other lines. We slowly started preparing for the patrol that was coming and tried not to think about how much different things were here on this day of holiday than what we had known at home.
We sent the patrol orders and crossed our fingers that this would be a day when everyone came back in one piece. If there was any day that would merit that, surely this day would be the one.
I was assigned to a patrol as the armored liaison. I don't think any trouble was expected, but they liked having one of us along so that we could call in armored support if it was needed, while the infantry set up a clear corridor for our scout walkers to get to them.
I led the stormtrooper detail out into the ground between the lines. Our job was to look for any changes in the terrain and to note anything that would potentially hinder what we all knew was the inevitable attack to break the stalemate. The fog was shifting around enough that I couldn't clearly see where we were, and I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me as I saw movement in the mist ahead of us. Suddenly, I realized that I wasn't seeing things. It was a rebel patrol, and they brought their blasters up at the same time we did.
The muzzles on their blasters look as big as dinner plates. Everyone froze. It was so quiet that you could hear the droplets of water falling off our armor and hitting the ground. I mean, we all knew what was about to happen. And then, out of the silence, a voice just started singing from the rebel lines. I didn't recognize the song, but it sounded hopeful and cheerful. And then a heartbeat later, an Imperial voice joined in from our lines. As we stared across our blasters at each other, we heard more from both sides join in.
I don't know why I did it. Both patrols had their weapons leveled and pointed straight at each other. Maybe it was because I heard the singing that had started. If that was it, it was just a reaction that happened well before I could think it through, I guess. I straightened up, stepped forward, and held out my hand. I don't know what I was expecting to happen. That should have been the last thing I ever did. It was dead silent, except for what had become a chorus of voices that we could now clearly hear. After what seemed like an eternity, one of the rebels smiled and lowered his blaster. Reaching out, he grabbed my hand. We greeted each other as old friends would, while what I had done slowly started sinking in.
We had just crossed into the airspace between the lines when we saw 4 X-Wings entering the same space. S-foils locked and lasers at full power. We prepared to face them, but we knew this was likely to result in a bad ending for our patrol. Over the comm, our flight leader suddenly called out that he saw something unusual below us. Moments away from a full engagement with the rebel fighters, I looked down into the space between the lines and saw rebels and Imperials standing together, weapons lowered, and shaking hands. What did it mean?
With the fog rapidly clearing between the lines, what started as 2 patrols lowering their weapons and shaking hands turned into something so unusual that it was almost unbelievable. Soldiers from both sides left their fortifications and began walking towards each other, waving and exchanging greetings. In the skies overhead, pilots powered down their weapon systems and waggled their wings at each other. Officers either passively watched as the spirit of the holiday took over the lines, or sought out their counterparts and exchanged their own pleasantries, then offered what small comforts they had in their possessions.
I found out that the rebels just like us, had all signed up together. And like us, they were missing a celebration that was traditional with their people. I had no idea that these soldiers were so much like me. We called the holiday by different names, but when we looked at each other, we knew that even though some of the names and customs were different, we all missed our families and all wished we were home with them. You know, I never thought I'd see the day when I could take off my helmet and share a drink with a rebel, alliance, soldier. But I did that day.
My channel's lit up with reports coming in about the remarkable thing happening across the battlefield. We couldn't believe it. Imperials and rebels celebrating peacefully? High Command was furious. Message after message came in demanding that we immediately resume combat operations. In the squad command post, we came to an unspoken agreement that for as long as the truce held, our long-range comms would malfunction. We even managed to get a few of the rebel comm operators on frequency and wish them a happy holiday.
I stood and talked with a few of the Reb Alliance officers. I gave them some of our traditional holiday cookies that I had in my pack, and they shared some sort of beverage that burned a little when I drank it, but reminded me of sitting at home watching my little brothers play by the fire. We swapped stories about our families and what we'd be doing if we weren't at Sector 5. What we said was a little bit different, but we all meant the same thing. I didn't know when this truce would end, and I didn't really care.
That day was truly one of the most astonishing holidays that anyone there could remember. Laughter rang out across the desolate land between the lines. And there was even a game involving a ball with very few rules. That evening, while the troops sang across the lines, pilots from both sides flew together, not dropping bombs, but signal beacons and flares that had been reprogrammed to overload and produced the most colorful explosions that had ever been seen in the place. No one knew what the days to come would bring. Uncertainty is part of a soldier's life, and all were accustomed to living without paying too much attention to the future. But for that day, the war stopped in Sector 5. Now that you've heard this remarkable story that you won't hear anywhere else, what will you choose to do with it? Was it a fluke? Something that was an accident? Or does it show something more? Something that reaches out and touches us all.